Chapter 472. At this moment, Jing Wan did not know that there were guests at the farmstead, and there was more than one of them. The guests were watching them from a distance, watching the couple laughing and fooling around. They were so intimate. It seems like we came at the wrong time today. Today, Sun Yijia, who was wearing beautiful peach blossom makeup, had a light smile on her face. She had a relaxed posture as she wrapped the handkerchief around her finger, slowly loosening it and wrapping it around her finger again. But it seems like this trip was not in vain. Yuan Chao Chao smiled meaningfully. Yes. Sun Yijia nodded. The second young mistress of the Luo family, Lady Zhao, also smiled lightly. Because she was pregnant, she appeared very gentle and had the motherly instincts of a mother. Moreover, her relationship with Luo Jingming had truly entered the honeymoon stage. After she became pregnant, her husband was very considerate and did not sleep with her. She felt very comfortable and did not have any adverse reactions during pregnancy. She was very nourished. Of course, they were not the only ones who came. Their respective husbands, 3 couples and 6 people, were also there. On the 3rd day of March, they were supposed to go out and have fun. Sun Yijia had received news that Jing Wan would not return, so she decided to come and take a look. Yuan Chao Chao received the news, so how could she miss it? Then, she bumped into Luo Jingming and his wife, so they decided to come together. Since their wives were coming, the 3 men could only risk their lives to accompany them. They had to be prepared to risk their lives in the face of the King of Hell. However, the result was not very timely. Li Hongyuan had previously instructed that unless Emperor Lu Chengdi passed away or Qi Yuan was destroyed, no one was to disturb them without his permission. Obviously, these 2 things could not happen at this time. Now that only the princess consort's family came, of course, they could not report it. However, some things could not be said clearly. In the end, it was Granny Gong who made the decision to bring them over. Yes, they could only watch from afar. Then, these 6 people were fiercely shown their affection by Li Hongyuan and Jing Wan. After that, the 3 grown men, to varying degrees, received their own wives' gazes. That was like hidden bitterness, like an accusation. Look at Jin Qin Wang, then look at you, why didn't you learn properly? The 3 men felt different degrees of heartache. Prince Jin, who was once a playboy and loved for 7 days, was actually regarded as a role model of a good husband? Even their wives wanted them to learn more? Just the thought of it made one's heart ache. Cousin-in-law, what should we do next? Go back or... Go back? Go back for what? Sun Yijia waved her hand and then looked at Granny Gong with a smile. Granny we are a little tired from the journey. Can I trouble you to bring a few stools for us to sit and rest for a while? She had made up her mind not to leave for the time being. At this moment, Zhao Shi and Yuan Chao Chao were following Sun Yijia's lead, especially Zhao Shi. If she wanted to sit for a while, it was even more above board. Therefore, the 3 men's opinions were completely ignored. As for Sun Yijia's request, Granny Gong was naturally satisfied because she did not think there was any problem at all. Their place was relatively hidden. They could see Jing Wan and the others clearly, but they could not easily see them. Of course, this was only relative to Jing Wan. As for whether they could hide from Li Hongyuan, it was hard to say. However, Li Hongyuan was still pushing the swing rhythmically, not moving at all. Not only did Granny Gong ask people to bring stools, she also prepared fruits and tea. From the looks of it, she did not mind at all how long they had to do it. These people had long been used to being tortured by their own 2 masters. They should let outsiders have a taste. Jing Wan was completely unaware that there was a group of onlookers beside her. She was still having fun. As for the 6 people who stayed, they had different thoughts. The 3 women were more or less a little envious, jealous, and hateful in their hearts. Say, how could Jin Qin Wang be such a man? Could it be fake? Even if it was during Jing Wan's birthday banquet last time, they had already seen some clues, but they didn't expect that when it was completely in private, it would be to this extent. This was completely a devoted and infatuated type who only had his own wife in his heart. If it was other people, those people who had always been clean and honest, they would definitely be able to easily accept it and even feel that it was natural. However, this person was Jin Qin-wang, so this feeling was completely not on the same level. That's why Wan Mimi's life is really good. However, this is also how it should be. Wan Mimi is such a good person. If her husband did not treat her well, then he would be guilty of 10,000 deaths. Sun Yijia sighed. The little bit of emotion in her heart also disappeared, and she happily looked on. Luo Jingbua glanced at Sun Yijia, then looked at the maidservants and guards beside her. Each and every one of them acted as if they did not hear anything. He silently chose to shut his mouth, but he secretly prayed in his heart that his wife would not say any more shocking words. Saying that Jin Qin-wang guilty of 10,000 deaths in front of so many people? Did he really want to die? Even if it was the truth, it could not be said so casually. Sun Yijia seemed to know her husband's thoughts. She turned back to look at him and gave him an elegant supercilious look. What are you afraid of? Their Wang Fei is in front of them. Even if Jin Qin-wang knows, what can he do? That's why you are so fearless. In any case, she was born in Duke Ding Fu, which was a 1,000-year-old aristocratic family. She had a first-class upbringing. How did she become such an insolent person? This was the common thought in everyone's mind. Luo Jingbua did not refute his wife because what his wife said was reasonable. The other two big men beside him became more and more stifled. They could even foresee their own miserable future. They did not have any desire to eat fruits, tea, or whatever. They were already full from looking at it. That's why they did not realize that they were actually full from being fed dog food. Generally speaking, this kind of scene was definitely self-abuse. Usually, no one would foolishly continue to look at it. However, Sun Yijia stood firm and the other two women followed. The rest could only be helpless. Unknowingly, Jingwan stopped and quietly sat on the swing. Her head leaned against the rope at the side and quietly looked at Li Hongyuan. Because Li Hongyuan unexpectedly took a chin from the begonia tree and sat on the ground. The chin was placed on his lap and the sentimental music unhurriedly floated out. Many petals also fell on the surrounding grass. The swing stopped and the falling petals also slowed down. It must be said that the several people who were melon eaters all had a certain level of cultivation in the field of music. After all, this was a compulsory course. Even if they did not know how to play, they still had a basic level of appreciation. Jin Qin-wang's chin skills were simply beyond people's expectations. That song could be said to be soft and tender, expressing the meaning of love. Sun Yijia was unexpectedly silent. Or perhaps, at this moment, she was truly relieved of Jing Wan. Her attainments in the art of the qin were naturally extraordinary. She was very clear that the difference between a song that was played with pure skills and a song that was played with sincere feelings could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. Just like now, if Jin Qin-wang did not love Wan Mimi to the extreme, he would absolutely not be able to play such a song. Just by listening to it, it could soften a person's heart, as if she was carefully held in the palm of his hand and placed on top of his heart. At this moment, she finally admitted that Jin Qin-wang was not so annoying. Sun Yijia stood up. It's about time, let's go. You're leaving? Cousin-in-law, wait for the Lantern Festival. Wait until you finish listening to this song before you leave. Sun Yijia laughed. Listen to it before you leave? I'm afraid that after you finish listening, you will dislike someone to death. As she said this, she glanced at Yuan Qiaoqiao's husband with ridicule. The other party was a bit embarrassed, and Yuan Qiaoqiao also reacted. All right, there was also a bit of embarrassment on her face. The three big men were naturally eager to leave. If this continued, it would really not be good. On the way out, Yuan Qiaoqiao returned to her original nature. Everyone says that Jin Qin-wang is worthless. Who would have thought that he would be so powerful? Cousin-in-law, you say, us married women have all been affected. If those people at Wan Mimi's birthday banquet who had thoughts about Jin Qin-wang, what would they do if they heard it? First of all, it's impossible for them to hear it. It's impossible for them to hear a song, let alone one that was played from the heart. Secondly, even if they accidentally heard it, Would they have the courage to risk death or injury to throw themselves at it? Sun Yijia sneered. She couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes, yet she was still thinking about those useless things. Tisk. Sun Yijia was originally a very intelligent woman. She was now very suspicious of Jin Qinhuang's so-called wife-jinxing fate. It was hard to say about the previous ones, but were the previous ones really jinxed them? Soon after, Sun Yijia looked at Yuan Qiao again and reached out to pat her. Some words shouldn't be spoken irresponsibly. In any case, leave some face for your husband. Being affected by another man's zither music or something. Yuan Qiao's husband's face was indeed a bit gloomy. Yuan Qiao looked over, unrepentant, and stuck out her tongue at him in a place where other people couldn't see, making funny faces like a child. This man was very clear about his wife's nature. What was there to be gloomy about? His heart was full of helplessness. However, although the women he came into contact with were wrong, there were still quite a few. There were older sisters and younger sisters in the family, as well as older sisters-in-law and the cousins outside. There were very few who had a heart as pure as his wife. Getting along with her was much more comfortable than getting along with other people. Just based on this, he was willing to protect her, pamper her, and tolerate her a little. Luo Jingbua and Luo Jingming, before Yuan Qiao's marriage, had interacted with this young master of the capital magistrate's family. Their relationship could be considered quite good. At this moment, they both revealed an ambiguous smile. After all, they more or less knew about this younger cousin's temperament. They came and left, but Jingwan didn't know it all. At this moment, she was engrossed in listening to the zither music. Sun Yijia, who was relatively indifferent to Jin Qinhuang, had a soft heart. What about her, who was at the center? What about her, who was the subject of the zither master? Jingwan looked straight at Li Hongyuan's deep eyes, which were filled with the same feelings as the zither music. Jingwan felt that it wouldn't be too much to drink herself to death inside. After Li Hongyuan changed the song, Jingwan softly opened her mouth. "Ah Yuan." Li Hongyuan didn't answer, but his eyes showed that he was waiting for her to speak. "Change it. My heart can't take it anymore." Her heart was beating a little fast. Li Hongyuan chuckled. "Okay." In reality, Jingwan wasn't much different from being drunk right now. Because of her accelerated heartbeat, her face was flushed red, and the corners of her eyes were flushed red like waves of passion. Her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Li Hongyuan saw this and felt that Jingwan, who was under the crabapple tree at this moment, was simply beautiful to the extreme. However, there wasn't any desire in his heart. Regarding this moment of spiritual integration, it was also an extreme enjoyment. After that, Li Hongyuan changed the song, which was more lively and suited the beautiful spring scenery. Jingwan also gradually calmed down. That's right. Her man wasn't useless. He was omnipotent. After another song, Li Hongyuan casually put the zither aside, got up, and walked to Jingwan's side. He reached out to lift her chin and kissed her on the lips. Then, he lifted her up and sat on the swing. With one hand holding Jingwan in his arms and the other holding the rope, he touched the ground with one foot. With a slight force, the swing swayed in a small arc with the two of them. Occasionally, petals would fall, and Jingwan would reach out to catch them. Then, she would gently blow at them and watch them float further away. Looking at them, she couldn't help but smile. Occasionally, they would whisper, as if they were reminiscing about the past and looking forward to the future. When it was quiet enough, they began to go crazy everywhere. By the time they returned to the villa, the sun was already setting in the west. That was to say, the two of them went out after breakfast and came back before dinner. Lunch. They ate a lot along the way. How could they be hungry? After all, when they were almost done playing, sitting together to eat something was also a kind of fun. When they had dinner and digested the food, Jingwan knew that Sun Yijia and the others had come. Nanny Gong told her that the prince and princess you didn't see any guests today, so they left after sitting for a while. Jingwan didn't ask any more questions. She didn't want to neglect her relatives and friends. Her wedding anniversary with her husband was more important. After digesting the food, Jing Yuan began to pack up the biggest gift of the day, which was 90 jade dolls. Jing Yuan felt that she should prepare a special cabinet of many treasures. These dolls shouldn't be buried at the bottom of the box, but should be placed in front of her. In the end, when they fell asleep, Li Hongyuan didn't see the surprise prepared by his wife. His eyes flashed, but he didn't ask. He roughly understood that the surprise prepared by his wife was probably a birthday gift for him. However, Li Hongyuan became more and more curious about the fact that she had started to prepare so early. That was true. Wan had already said that she would let him arrange everything for today. As for the arrangements, he naturally had to make all the arrangements. Because their hearts and minds were intertwined during the day, their harmony at night would be more harmonious and wonderful. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/115264443. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Beacon.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 473. If this went on, the living king of hell would most likely become a fatuous ruler from time to time in the future. However, whether he was a fatuous ruler or not, to Li Hongyuan, it really didn't affect him. In any case, he had already been a tyrant before, but he was very confident. Even if he was a fatuous ruler, as long as he didn't deliberately play around, Qi Yuan's country wouldn't collapse. However, with Jing Yuan by his side, he wanted to give her the glory and splendor of the Golden Age. How could he go crazy and play around with Qi Yuan's country? In the days that followed, it could be said that the two people didn't pay attention to outside matters, wholeheartedly only accompanying the other person. In addition to half of the time that Jing Yuan was busy preparing the birthday gift for Li Hongyuan, the other half was the two people holding hands to wind, flower, snow and moon, painting together, growing flowers together, playing, riding horses, and seeing the precious beast's garden that a certain person used all his strength to build. It really was flying in the sky, running on the ground, living in the water, everything that should be there was there. If this super garden was really known by people, the memorials to impeach Jin Qinhuang would be piled up with Lu Chengdi's imperial case. Jing Yuan was more or less a bit worried. No matter how much Lu Chengdi favored this son, he was still the emperor. Thinking about the history of her previous life, there was a certain emperor who only built a leopard house. Although other people might have built a tiger city, elephant house, leopard house, pigeon house, deer farm, eagle house and many other places to raise animals, the number was limited and almost turned into dogs. Well, it was said that those were places for pleasure, but they were also labeled as extravagant. Those things, compared to the current precious beast's garden, were completely not on the same level. Li Hongyuan didn't care. The people who went to various places to search for these things were all the ones that I asked for from him. It was completely done in the open. No matter how they impeach, it's just extravagance. Using the crime of extravagance to impeach me is completely meaningless. Who doesn't know that Jin Qinhuang is extravagant by nature? Well, some worries were indeed superfluous. Since a certain person dared to do it, then there definitely wouldn't be any problems. Even if there was a problem, it could definitely be solved. He had no worries at all and was completely unrestrained. He was having a lot of fun. Of course, Jing Yuan was determined not to let her brain become numb. From that day onwards, she dealt with some matters every day without fail. Recently, it was relatively peaceful, so Jing Yuan almost took care of all the matters in Li Hongyuan. If it was someone else, their wife being so motivated, they might think that she was harboring evil intentions. On the contrary, Li Hongyuan was happy and relaxed. While Jing Yuan was burying her head in hard work, he leisurely took a book, made a cup of tea, or prepared some good wine. While he was at it, he would also order some dishes to go with the wine. Occasionally, he would also ask the musicians to play some soothing tunes outside. Afterwards, he would comfortably half lean back. How could he be so satisfied? Jingwan was gnashing her teeth as she watched. Especially when she encountered more brain-burning matters, she really wanted to strangle him to death. Several times, she wanted to go on strike. Why did she have to work herself to death while a certain person was leisurely? These matters were still his matters. However, every time this happened, Li Hongyuan would always coolly look at her. When doing things, you must finish what you started. You can't give up halfway. At the beginning, it was Wan Wan herself who asked for it. How can you not do it because it's hard? This husband will comply with you, but this matter is absolutely not allowed. Jingwan wanted to vomit blood. Was she afraid of working too hard? That was not the case at all, okay? It was just that the contrast was too obvious, and she felt seriously unbalanced. Jingwan also sneered, "Then please move away, Prince. Don't hinder me here. Look at what Wan Wan is saying. First, this husband didn't say anything. Second, I didn't disturb you. How am I hindering you? This husband just saw that Wan Wan was working hard and wanted to be by your side like you always do. Wan Wan used to be like this. Wan Wan was very happy. I thought that Wan Wan would also be happy if this husband did this. Now, hearing Wan Wan say this husband can't help but feel sad. What did it mean to talk nonsense with a straight face? This was a typical example. However, Jingwan could not give him a taste of his own medicine, because this trick did not work on her at all. If you enjoy it, he will enjoy it with you. You don't have to worry about things being unfinished. This was the difference between them. She could not drive him away or destroy him. Jingwan could only continue to work bitterly and not look at him. Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. She immersed all her thoughts in the business, and a certain someone's existence was dispensable. Jingwan was serious, so Li Hongyuan stopped reading and just stared at her attentively. After finishing the last task, Jingwan felt a little stiff all over. Before she could move, Li Hongyuan was already standing behind her, gently massaging her shoulders and neck. Jingwan exhaled, grabbed Li Hongyuan's hand, and rubbed it comfortably. Then, she realized in hindsight, "AI, that's not right, Yuan. At that time, I clearly said that no matter how much I was in charge of, I would only be responsible for half." "And what's the problem?" Li Hongyuan's expression did not change. "But these were all handled by me," Jingwan hatefully said. "Because only half of them were sent. I have already handled the other half," Li Hongyuan said calmly without blushing or skipping a beat. Jingwan looked up and saw a certain someone smiling lightly. Forget it, she had already seen this face of his. There was no need to expose the fact that her IQ was not as good as his. She got up. "I'm tired. Go back to sleep. Today, I need a mama to help me loosen my muscles and bones. Your Highness, you should rest first." Li Hongyuan rubbed his fingers and laughed. Was he being driven out of the room by his wife in disguise? However, the thick-skinned certain someone expressed that, not to mention in disguise, even if it was directly, it was impossible to drive him out. The days were so leisurely and bitter, idle and fulfilling. The 12th of the 3rd month, the death anniversary of the Imperial Gue Fei, Jin Qinhuang's birthday. Perhaps because he knew that the Imperial Gue Fei was still alive, Lu Cheng Emperor didn't seem to be in an abnormal state this year. However, in some people's eyes, he was even more unreasonable. At least for the past few days, Lu Cheng Emperor didn't go to court. All day long, he hugged the portrait of the Imperial Gue Fei and mumbled nonsense. He even hoped that the Imperial Gue Fei would possess the portrait. Then, the frequency of the two words, "You honor," from his mouth became higher and higher. Hearing it made people's hearts tremble. His fear of Li Hongyuan became deeper and deeper, and his killing intent increased day by day. However, it was obvious that he did not dare to act rashly at this time. Because once he was investigated, even if he was not executed on the surface, he might be killed in private. Imperial Gue Fei was also in an unprecedented state of irritation. Although on the surface, she was still considered normal. Thinking about it, she thought that everything was in her hands, but in the end, there was a mistake. Her own son was poisoned by the same poison. Because it was the same thing, she began to be suspicious and thought that it was the Imperial Gui Fei's revenge. It was not that she did not have other suspicions, but it was too much of a coincidence. The idea of revenge always prevailed. Thus, no one wanted the Imperial Gui Fei's ritual to succeed more than her. Her attitude towards Li Hongyuan also changed fundamentally. However, just like in previous years, she had people prepare a table of food and send it over to Li Hongyuan. However, this year, Imperial Gui Fei was definitely not the only imperial concubine who was thinking about Li Hongyuan. Imperial Gui Fei also had people prepare things in private. In the past, there was no way, but now that the mother and son had recognized each other, how could the Imperial Gui Fei be indifferent? Of course, when Li Hongyuan was in the teeth of the storm, such a behavior would cause trouble if she was not careful. However, Imperial Gui Fei did not refuse. No one knew better than her how torturous it was for the Imperial Gui Fei in her body. In addition, Great Elder Princess and the two elders of the Luo family also sent gifts to Li Hongyuan. As for the table of food, it was casually ordered to be rewarded. It was obvious that Imperial Gui Fei would not be stupid enough to do anything to it. Therefore, Jingwan felt no pressure to reward people. Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan and did not say anything. The success rate of taking action was high when others thought that it was impossible to take action. Moreover, this table of food had changed hands several times, and there could be problems at any time. Now there were many people who wanted to take action against him. As his mother, Imperial Gui Fei treated Li Hongyuan well, so she could not be suspected. Moreover, since Imperial Gui Fei could get the sterilization powder, which was usually undetectable, it was hard to guarantee that there would not be a second kind of poison. Of course, it was also possible that there was nothing wrong with any table of food. However, Li Hongyuan was too lazy to care about these things. Now, his wife said that she was going to give him a birthday gift. After being mysterious for so long, it was finally time to unveil the veil. Now, except for this, he was not interested in anything else at all. There were open-air hot springs behind the main courtyard, and naturally, there were also built bathing pools. The entire bathing pool was very large. Because it was above the hot springs, there was no need for the existence of an earth dragon. At this moment, the surrounding gauze curtains were put down. There was no water in the bathing pool, so it was warm enough and not foggy. A large area next to the bathing pool was originally paved with white marble, but now it was covered with a dark carpet. Li Hongyuan looked at the arhut bed, which was placed well. There was a small jade table on it, as well as good wine and food. Li Hongyuan gently raised the corners of his mouth and walked over unhurriedly. The arhut bed was covered with a soft cushion and a big pillow. How could he fail to live up to such good intentions? Li Hongyuan sat down and leaned back, leisurely and languid. He was no longer as strict as before. He pulled at his collar, and a certain aura on his body instantly soared. Li Hongyuan poured a glass of wine, and music sounded in his ears. Directly in front of his eyes, a figure appeared behind the gauze curtain. Judging from the figure, it was his wife. There were two soft sounds outside, and the music in his ears changed. Jingwan's cloak that was tightly wrapped around her body slid down. However, there was still a layer of transparent white gauze on her body. Along with the music, Jingwan placed one hand on her head and the other open. She moved with the dance steps and parted the curtain. Step by step, she stepped forward. Li Hongyuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Although he had expected that it might be related to dancing, when he really saw it, he was still quite surprised, or rather, quite happy. Although the white gauze was wide, because it was transparent, he could see everything inside. A gorgeously decorated tube top? It should be a tube top, but it was like two petals, tightly wrapped around the snowy peaks. Her flexible waist, without a trace of fat, was perfect, and there were jewels on her navel. A palm-wide waist belt wrapped around her crotch, and there was a net-like bead chain outside, which was relatively thin. Inside the belt, there was also a transparent low-waisted white gauze skirt, and inside, the underwear was also clearly visible. Her bare feet, and there was also a chain around her ankle. Because the color of the carpet was dark, the contrast was very obvious, and it was also exceptionally beautiful. Li Hongyuan couldn't help but sit up straight, and his body leaned forward slightly. Although Jingwan and Li Hongyuan couldn't be more intimate, being stared at like this still made her feel a little uncomfortable. However, her body was a great attraction to her husband, and it seemed to be something to be happy about. Therefore, Jingwan endured, twirled, and danced, and the wide gauze fluttered. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/1152646. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 474. Her waist swayed, and at a certain point, her veil was lifted, revealing her exquisite makeup. The music suddenly became faster, and Jingwan's waist also followed the rapid swaying. Wearing the accessories on her body, it was exceptionally dazzling. Her feet touched the ground and she gorgeously turned around. She rapidly moved her arms. Only then did they discover that there was a cut at the back of the waistband and the seam of her buttocks was faintly discernible. Her beautiful hair, after being slightly styled, the ends of her hair just happened to be above the two shallow dimples. The dancing frequency was too fast, as if there were after-images, making people dizzy. At least, our Jin Qinhuang's eyes became more serene and serene. His mouth was a bit dry and his body seemed to have drunk too much. Feeling a bit hot, he reached out and pulled his collar open a bit more. But in fact, he hadn't even drunk the second cup of wine. Holding it in his hand, the cup was already a bit cracked. Jingwan turned sideways and her gaze fell on Li Hongyuan's body. It seemed that because she had started, it wasn't that difficult to continue. Her dancing body became more relaxed, and with a very shallow smile, the amorous light in her eyes, the frequency of the movements at her waist also decreased. Slanting towards Li Hongyuan, the top of her hips turned outwards, circling round and round. Her hand fluttered above her head and then retracted, as if it was not there. It brushed past her own body, chest, waist, and abdomen. Her body continued to turn a few more rounds. The gauze skirt along with the beaded necklace all flew apart. The temptation of the previous moment, at this moment, brought about elegance and gentleness. Following that, Jingwan's waist was like a water snake, swaying back and forth. Naturally, the position under the flower petals on her chest also drew out an obvious arc. With a bang, the wine in Li Hongyuan's hand was finally scrapped. The wine dripped down along with his palm, but he didn't care at all. He casually shook it twice and leaned back, lifting one leg to step on the arhat bed. He raised his hand to support his cheek. Regarding the changes in his body, he didn't conceal it at all. However, the expression on his face didn't change. There was neither forbearance nor pain. When Jingwan first entered the capital, at Dingguogong Fu, for some reason, Sun Yijia performed a dance in public. Li Hongyuan's gaze wasn't on Sun Yijia's body. His thoughts were all kinds of drifting, thinking about the scene of Jingwan performing a dance, especially the kind where one piece of clothing was missing. Later, when their relationship became intimate and even married, he forgot about this matter. The effect of today's dance was countless times better than expected. Speaking of which, Li Hongyuan had a rough idea of what Jingwan had learned. Although Jingwan was only 8 or 9 years old when he first sent people to Qi and prefecture, how could a girl from an official's family learn this kind of dance before the age of 8 or 9? No matter when she started learning it, it should be more proper and orthodox, just like Sun Yijia. Then, when did Wan learn it? The answer was obvious. According to common sense, since she was able to perform this dance for him as a birthday gift, then she definitely wouldn't have learned it under any humiliating circumstances. After all, their hearts were connected. There was no need for her to lower herself and deliberately seek his favor. Moreover, during the entire preparation process, he didn't feel any negative emotions from her. Therefore, she simply wanted to perform it for him to see and add a bit of fun between husband and wife. Thinking about all these, this dance should be quite ordinary for Wan Wan in the past. Li Hongyuan secretly clicked his tongue in his heart. He was a little unhappy. His Wan Wan might have been seen by someone else. Jingwan didn't know that Li Hongyuan's mind had thought so much in such a short time. She was focused on the rhythm of the music. Towards the end, she became more and more open. Like flowing water, like waves, like a burning flame, she freely used her body to express herself. Her arms spread out like wings and her head danced like a snake. She shook her hips and body to her heart's content. Sometimes, she was elegant, sometimes charming, sometimes delicate, and sometimes a little arrogant. Her eyes seemed to move along with the mood of the dance. It was very sexy, very seductive, and very provocative. It made people's hearts tremble. The charming special capital was vividly displayed by Jingwan. It was too much for the eyes to take in. In the end, Jingwan's body knelt on the ground. Her body bent backward and stretched to the maximum angle. The curve from her neck to her legs was fully displayed. The music had stopped. Jingwan maintained this posture and looked at Li Hongyuan from the bottom to the top. Because the choreography took a little long, Jingwan's breathing was a little rapid. Her chest was obviously moving up and down. There was also a thin layer of sweat, which seemed to be soft and watery. Especially in the position where Li Hongyuan was standing, the cleavage was prominent and indescribably attractive. The evil fire aroused by Jingwan was completely ignited. After the dance, if he could still sit still, he would really be a saint. He suddenly stood up. 3 steps turned into 2 steps. He bent down and hooked his arm. Jingwan followed his strength and stood up. She put one hand on his shoulder and the other on his chest. Li Hongyuan deliberately held her waist very tightly so that she could clearly feel his body's reaction. Li Hongyuan's other hand started from her cheek and slowly stroked down. Wan Wan, are you satisfied with the effect of your dance? Jingwan suddenly laughed. Her hand mischievously touched Li Hongyuan's body. She even raised a leg and wrapped it around his leg. Slowly, she moved it up to his waist. Her breath smelled like orchids. Wang Ye, are you satisfied? Li Hongyuan's hand paused. Then he held Jingwan's leg and pushed the layer of gauze to the base of her thigh. I've never seen Wan Wan so enthusiastic. It seems that in the past, I didn't love Wan Wan enough. This time, I will make Wan Wan completely satisfied. Wan Wan said that she won't get up for a few days, so we won't get up for a few days. Hey! Jingwan's head moved back. Although from the beginning, when she chose, it would definitely lead to this situation. She wanted to tease him, but she had prepared for so long and put in so much effort. Don't just focus on the result and completely ignore the dance. Wang Ye still hasn't told this concubine. Are you satisfied with this birthday gift? The king of hell didn't lack anything, so it was quite difficult to give him a gift that he was satisfied with. As for why Jingwan knew how to do belly dance, it was all thanks to her mother in her previous life. One day, she was dragged by one of her best friends to learn it on a whim. She said that it could help her lose weight and shape her waist. She didn't know why her mother wanted to dance, but later on, her mother suddenly dragged her to learn it. Jingwan learned it. She was quite talented in it, and because of her good foundation in yoga, she learned it. In the end, she even beat the instructor. After the accident at home, there was a long period of turmoil. Later on, when she settled down, she would occasionally dance. But after she came to this world, she was too young at first. Later on, dancing like this was absolutely offensive to public morals. If people found out, she would be scolded to death. After all, she estimated that even the women in the brothel couldn't dance to this level. Naturally, she was forgotten in a corner. She didn't know why, but when she was thinking about preparing a birthday gift for someone, she didn't know why she remembered it. Although she had been neglected for a long time, but some things, once learned, would always be remembered. Even when she first picked it up, she spent a lot of time practicing the basic skills. After all, Jingwan wasn't a professional choreographer. If she wanted to find a song that met her requirements and wanted to make a good dance, it was actually a short period of time. After all, she couldn't ask for help. However, who asked those musicians to be so awesome? They had songs that gave her inspiration. After getting through the difficult initial stage, everything went smoothly. However, in the end, it was Jingwan who figured out the choreography by herself. Moreover, she didn't stick to any school. She just showed the essence of belly dance. The other parts were added casually. She just did it as she liked. From the many dressing mirrors, she felt that the effect was quite good. However, it was hard to guarantee how it would look in the eyes of others. Li Hongyuan naturally understood Jingwan's meaning and affirmed her efforts and results. Very good. Really? Ah Yuan, don't love me for my dog? I have seen a lot of dances. I don't know how many kinds of dances there are. I think that my level of appreciation is still good enough. Jingwan understood. Her eyebrows and eyes curved into a smile, but this smile didn't last for a moment. Oh. Her body trembled slightly. She couldn't help but moan. She grabbed Li Hongyuan's mischievous hand. We can talk about this later. Wan should continue to send the gifts now. Li Hongyuan said. He held her neck and kissed her. His other hand became more and more unruly. Jingwan held his neck and catered to his kiss. She was reluctant to part with him. Li Hongyuan picked up Jingwan and walked to the side of the Arhut bed. He kicked away the jade table with wine. The jade table slid to the edge. The slender wine bottle on top shook and then fell down. The clear wine spilled out. However, the two people at the side didn't care about the wine. Li Hongyuan was burned by the evil fire and almost lost his reason. He only wanted to tear Jingwan apart and eat her. Jingwan was under his hands and naturally couldn't be distracted. The task was completed. The musicians outside naturally should leave quickly. However, some people dilly-dallied for some unknown purpose. However, Jingwan's maidservants and mamas wouldn't give them a chance. As the musicians of Jin Qin Wang Fu, if they overstepped their duty, they would definitely not have a good ending. No matter how good their skills were or how beautiful they were, it was the same. Although the people around Jingwan didn't know what dance Jingwan was dancing, but Jingwan's clothes were made by them. They didn't know the process, but the final result could be guessed. Therefore, everyone was well aware of what was going on inside. They consciously walked a little further away and the rest were not allowed to enter. Now was an unusual time. No matter what the reason was for the dawdling musician, Gong Mama expressionlessly greeted Mu Gonggong and told him how to deal with it. Mu Gonggong was an expert in this field. And Jingwan's death-seeking aroused Li Hongyuan to this point. It was obvious that the pleasure of fish and water would not end so easily. At least, during this period, Li Hongyuan let Gong Mama come in and change the water in the bath 3 times. And in the whole place, there were many traces of lovemaking. Fortunately, it was more convenient for the bath to be filled with water and it was easy to clean. Otherwise, changing the water once was not an easy task, let alone one person to do it. Every time Gong Mama came in, she didn't look sideways because she was used to this kind of thing. Jingwan also wouldn't be shy and play dead like at the beginning. At most, she would be together with a certain someone and use something to cover her body. In fact, towards the end, Gong Mama wanted to say something but hesitated. She wanted to persuade Wang Yi to restrain himself a little. Too much indulgence was not good for Wang Fei's health. That's right, she only cared about Jingwan. Li Hongyuan had nothing to do with her. But after thinking about it, he wouldn't listen even if she said it. She would just pay attention to Wang Fei's health. Besides, it wasn't like he did it every night. Once he did it too hard, the days after were still relatively long. In the end, Jin Qin Wang didn't really have a sense of propriety. When the living king of hell stopped, the outside was already shrouded in the curtain of night. Dinner time had already passed. Therefore, it wasn't hard to see why the gift was sent out in the middle of the day. If the gift was sent before going to bed, she wouldn't be able to sleep well. For people with a regular schedule, if they didn't go to bed on time, it would definitely be very bad. At this time, Li Hongyuan was holding Jingwan and sitting in the huge bath. There was a layer of flower petals scattered on top of the bath. The steam was rising and the fragrance was overflowing. Compared to here, Li Hongyuan actually preferred to soak in the open-air hot spring outside. The water was up to her chest. Li Hongyuan gently massaged Jingwan's waist to ease the discomfort in her waist. At the same time, he opened his mouth. Wan's dance today, who else saw it? Every day she practiced alone. The musicians were all outside playing. It's not like you don't know. Who else could have seen it? Jingwan leaned on his body and didn't want to move at all. After a long period of vigorous exercise, even with her physique that had been exercising for a long time, her hands and feet were soft and her whole body was powerless. She could only play with a strand of his hair with her fingers as she lazily said. It was said that there were only tired cows and no land that was plowed. However, the cow known as the living king of hell was too strong. After such a consumption, he still looked like nothing happened. On the contrary, Jingwan's land was really unbearable. Then, what about when you were learning this dance? A certain person's eyes were dark and unfathomable. He still had the energy to care about these things. Jingwan finally understood. She snorted in laughter. This jealousy was too unreasonable. Every time I wore this kind of clothing. At most, it was low-waisted trousers and a long-sleeved top that exposed the navel. However, if a certain person saw that kind of clothing, he would probably still be jealous. Therefore, it was better not to talk about the details. However, Li Hongyuan's IQ was not damaged at all now. Thinking of the appearance of Jingwan when she danced, if the most prominent position of the whole dance was covered tightly, what effect could it have? It was enough to show that even when she first learned, at least her waist was exposed. His wife was silly now and thought that he was easy to fool. However, there were some things that couldn't be cared too much. If he cared too much about it, it would really be meaningless and hurt feelings. It took him half an hour to calm down. Although he still didn't want to move, his stomach was already protesting. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11634577. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 475. A level 9 handicap would be in high spirits the next day. Therefore, if Jin Qinhuang wanted his wife to not be able to get out of bed for a few days, it was basically impossible, unless he really hurt her. But would Li Hongyuan do that? Certainly not. During breakfast, Li Hongyuan seemed to have thought of something. Qing Zhu. What instructions does Wang have? Qing Zhu, who was serving at the side, hurriedly crouched and asked. Jingwan also looked at him curiously. What about Wang Fei's clothes from yesterday? Li Hongyuan asked faintly. When he said this, not only the servant girls, even Jingwan blushed a little. If it was in her previous life, then she wouldn't say anything. That kind of clothes was not a big deal, but it was different now. It had been more than 10 years. Jingwan's thoughts must have been greatly affected. Thinking about it, when that dress was mentioned, what would the people around her think? How could she not be angry? Without thinking, she subconsciously kicked him under the table and glared at him, telling him to shut up. Li Hongyuan was not the least bit affected and even gave Jingwan some food to eat. Qing Zhu vaguely sized up the two masters, replying to Wang Ye, Wang Fei's clothes have been washed. Then after you bring it back, keep it well. Li Hongyuan's expression was still indifferent. Keep it for what? I won't wear it in the future. Deal with it. This kind of thing, it was done once. Was there a next time? Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan and continued to eat unhurriedly. After a moment, he opened his mouth. Some special things, even if you don't use it in the future, you should keep it well. just like Wan's red wedding dress. Although it was two different sets of clothes, could the two be compared? That emotional woman, she might think that it was belittling her. But if it was Li Hongyuan, Jingwan knew that the meaning was absolutely the opposite. Wang Ye thinks highly of it. Li Hongyuan waved his hand and dismissed the servants. To your husband, it is naturally important. After all, this is the first time someone has celebrated my birthday so solemnly. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change at all, but Jingwan immediately felt distressed. She reached out and held Li Hongyuan's hand. "Ah Yuan, I'm here. I'll be there for you in the future." Wan didn't even want to leave her clothes behind. Jingwan seemed to have heard the accusation, saying that she would be there in the future. In the end, he didn't even want to leave behind a single piece of clothing. He was simply insincere. If a Yuan likes it, he can stay. Jingwan felt that she was digging a hole for herself. My wife is so easy to coax. However, only someone who truly cared about you would be like this, because she was willing to be coaxed by you. Then every year in the future, on my birthday, Wan will dance for me, okay? Until you can't dance anymore. This was what it meant to be insatiable. Jingwan's expression cracked a little. She retracted her hand. What heartache! She should have fed it to the dogs. She expressionlessly said, "How can you give me the same gift every year? For some things, once is enough. Besides, when I'm 50 or 60 years old, I might still be very healthy. If you dance then, you won't be afraid that you'll be blind. Do whatever you want." Jingwan did not intend to pay attention to him. She was still not full. Li Hongyuan had long stopped caring about the fact that no one had ever given him a birthday. Even in his previous life, when he became the emperor, he did not take a birthday celebration seriously at all. The courtiers earnestly advised him, and whether he wanted to do it or not depended entirely on his mood. However, when someone had no other purpose and had carefully prepared a gift for you, how could he be indifferent? People were greedy. If there was one, there would naturally be another. Even if Wan's teeth fell out, your husband would still kiss her. What's the point of dancing at 60 years old? 60 years old might still be the same as yesterday. Li Hongyuan calmly looked at Jingwan, as if he was still a little unsatisfied. Then I'm sorry. You're not blind, but I don't have the cheek to dance. Speaking of which, a body covered in orange peel, belly dancing? What kind of international joke was this? That was not sexy, it was purely an eyesore. Would it still be the same as yesterday? His body did not want to, and his heart probably did not want to. And a man in his 60s or 70s hugging a little girl to warm the bed was very normal. TSK, thinking of this, her heart seemed to be unhappy. Although it was really boring to ask if someone would have a change of heart after a few decades. Li Hongyuan moved to Jingwan's side and leaned close to her ear. At 60 years old, Wan is still as beautiful as a flower. Jingwan cast a sidelong glance at him and sneered. At 60 years old, Yuan is a mess of an old man. Is that so? Li Hongyuan hugged Jingwan and kissed her. Isn't that just right? Messy old men all like beautiful women. His skin was super thick, and he was even more gluttonous. Therefore, this kind of thing, in the end, basically, all roads lead to the same destination. Fortunately, a certain person had eaten his fill yesterday. Even if he was still in the mood now, he would not do anything in consideration of Jingwan's body. At most, he would just kiss and touch her. Yesterday's matter was not dealt with, so it would definitely take a little more time today. Moreover, it would be dealt with after breakfast, and not piled up until the evening. Regarding Jingwan's dedication to her job, the subordinates expressed that compared to her, Wang Yi seemed to be a little too unqualified. Everyone had already expected that in the future, when Wang Fei was fully familiar with these matters, Wang Yi would completely wash his hands of the matter and directly look for Wang Fei whenever there was a problem. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, he was the one who usurped the throne. Those who did not know would think that it was his wife, Tsk. Jingwan was dealing with matters while listening to Imperial bodyguard Qian and Yi's report about Jing City. Although he was no longer a hidden guard, it was not different from what he did before. After all, he was more familiar with it, but he was sure that he would not be sent out on missions again. Yesterday evening, the imperial physician diagnosed Princess Rue's pregnancy pulse. Hearing this, Jingwan stopped what she was doing and turned to look at Li Hongyuan. Is she really pregnant? If not, she would definitely not dare to let the imperial physician diagnose her pulse with great fanfare. Li Hongming's luck is really good. Li Hongyuan did not have any reaction, but, even if she is really pregnant, so what? At that time, it will not only confuse the royal bloodline, but also Princess Rue's promiscuity in the imperial harem, or Prince Rue can't have children. For the sake of the throne, he will not hesitate to let an outsider defile his princess. It will be more fun, right? Jingwan was silent. Prince Rue had already taken the sterilization powder. The person who drugged her must know that she could not have children. Then, no matter how the child came about, there must be a problem. It was like yellow mud falling into the crotch of the trousers. If it was not that, it would be that. According to someone's plan, if she was really pregnant, it would be worse than a fake pregnancy. Although this plan was a little vicious, Jingwan did not mean to stop it at all. On the contrary, if she is really pregnant, it may not be a boy. In this case, it must be a boy just in case. After all, there may not be another chance in the imperial harem of Prince Rue's mansion. Of course, this child must be a boy. Where do you think this child will come from, Your Highness? No matter where it comes from, it's okay if it is not used. Once it is used, it will be a dead end. That was an innocent little life. Wan's emotions are always written on her face. Well, don't think so much. I will try my best to keep the child and let the child return to his parents. However, Wan, you have to know that this may not be a good thing for the child. Jingwan certainly understood that the child who could be chosen was very likely to have some problems. For example, he was not expected by others, and someone did not want the child to exist. Because the more it was like this, the more the tail could be cleaned as much as possible. Yuan, help if you can. If it will cause you trouble, just ignore it. No matter whether the child is innocent or not, it is an outsider. You are the most important. Her compassion was based on a premise. Li Hongyuan smiled. It's not a big deal. Jingwan also smiled. She put this matter aside and waited for the child to be born. But now, imperial concubine Su and the others still could not relax because of this. After all, when they did not know the mastermind behind the scenes, they would inevitably be on tenterhooks. They did not know if the mastermind behind the scenes would play any tricks again. It was necessary to be 120% vigilant. Just thinking about it was tiring. Adoptive mother has not sent anyone to send the invitation yet. It is very likely that she will not hold a birthday banquet. Probably. Li Hongyuan was not interested. It did not matter whether these things were held or not. If they were held, they would just give face and make a trip. It would be better if they were not held. Recently, he was a little lazy and did not want to move. Then let's prepare the horse racing invitation. How about it? Up to you. Li Hongyuan said lazily, his whole body leaning on the couch again. Yuan, are you sleepy? Seeing him like this, Jingwan could not help but tease him. Probably. His eyes were half closed, as if he would fall asleep at any time. Jingwan looked at him, her helplessness turned into worry in an instant. Let Gong Jiu take your pulse? Li Hongyuan opened his eyes and looked at Jingwan. Wan is thinking too much. It is Wan who is too diligent. This husband is just bored. However, in order to make you feel at ease, there is no harm in letting Gong Jiu take a look. Just take it as a check of the pulse. This subordinate will go and call Gong Jiu over. Imperial bodyguard Chen, who had been forced to eat dog food in the background, seized the opportunity and immediately volunteered. Go. Imperial bodyguard Chen's feet were like oil as he walked very quickly. Only Gong Jiu came in after him. It was obvious that Li Hongyuan's health was very good. Even if he was so crazy yesterday, there were no signs of kidney deficiency. Therefore, Jin Qinhuang was really idle. His wife was also busy and did not accompany him. Jingwan rubbed her eyebrows. Was this really someone who was busy fighting for power? Jingwan decided not to care about him anymore. Let him do whatever he wanted. Even if he was bored to the point of sleeping, focusing on the things at hand was the most important thing. Just like this, one was busy, the other was idle. Time passed quickly for an hour. Jingwan stretched, Yuan. N. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11687605. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 476. It's up to you. From Li Hongyuan's point of view, there was essentially no difference between playing big and playing small. That was to find fun. Opening the horse racing track to make money was just to see his wife happy and play around. Even if he needed money in the future, he could find it from other places. He didn't need to do anything now. His things, even if they were moldy and long grass, would not be shared with others. However, who let his wife be happy, so it didn't matter. From another point of view, this was a good opportunity. The bigger the game, the easier it would be to make a move. If some people didn't take the opportunity to do something, Li Hongyuan would be very disappointed. In the entire capital, if one wanted to know which people were better at playing and horsemanship, one would know after checking. Or if they had a group of capable ministers under them, one didn't need to deliberately check. One just had to ask and perhaps they would know the answer. In fact, the people below did know. However, in order to achieve perfection, they didn't want to have any negligence. They still carefully checked one side. This kind of rigor had obviously become a habit. It could be imagined that those people who were far from reaching this level, when they received the invitation with Jin Qinhuang's official seal, would be very surprised. Especially since they were essentially the kind of dandy young masters who didn't do proper work. Of course, as the elders of these people, their expressions were also quite wonderful. Regardless of his reputation, he was a genuine Qinhuang and deeply received the emperor's grace. Even if he only asked you to amuse him, for many people, it was a great honor. Being disliked by the family all day, the disgraceful thing who couldn't wait to be beaten 3 times a day, suddenly receiving the favor that they might not be able to get in their lifetime. The feeling in their hearts was really, if it was purely spoiled by the family, it was still okay. Perhaps the mother and grandmother in the family would clap their hands and laugh, saying that their good son and grandson had good prospects. And these people's tails would probably be raised to the sky. So what if the other brothers were powerful? Could they get Jin Qinhuang's invitation? Could they enter Jin Qinhuang's manor? Could they be invited by Jin Qinhuang to race together? However, if it was a waste of a concubine's son that was specially raised by a D-mother, those D-mothers would probably vomit blood. Originally, they had suppressed him with great difficulty, but now they used this kind of method to turn things around, no matter what the consideration was. As the head of the family, he would pay more attention to it. The more ambitious he was, the more support he would give. Once the illegitimate sons got up, the D-sons would certainly not have as many benefits as they originally had. Moreover, if Jin Qinhuang's whims were not just once, there would be many, many times. Then, these illegitimate sons who crawled up, as D-mothers, would not dare to move even half a point. If they moved, perhaps they would cut off some of their own husbands' paths. Thus, they might not be able to sit on the position of the principal wife. After all, Jin Qinhuang had money, knew how to play, and had seen his superb horsemanship. Even if they were afraid of him, their hearts were still a little itchy. However, Jin Qinhuang had never taken them out to play. This time, he actually invited them to race together. Deep in their hearts, they couldn't help but be excited. Moreover, they could also be proud of their father who wanted to break their legs. This was going out to play in broad daylight. As for those who were grounded, they were even happier. "Dad, it's not that I want to go out, it's Jean Qinhuang who invited me." "You don't want me to go out? Fine," you went to reply to Jean Qinhuang's invitation. Encountering this kind of evil creature, as the father, they definitely wanted to beat them to death. However, they really could not give Jean Qinhuang face. Therefore, looking at their own family's evil creature's proud face, they could only endure it. They actually wanted to detain the evil creatures at home, but they couldn't because these evil creatures still had an invitation in their hands. Jingwan didn't know if it was because of her bad taste, but those big families, not only did they send an invitation to the head of the family, they also sent an invitation to their family's best. Detain? Hee. But fortunately, they didn't only invite the best. Therefore, they naturally sent the family's most outstanding and most capable ones over. At least, they had to watch a bit, and didn't make any unmanageable mess. Moreover, since the situation of each family was the same, then it was also a rather good opportunity to make friends. And for those people whose status didn't reach this level, one invitation could still bring 5 people. Naturally, each had their own considerations. Even if it was the illegitimate son who could turn the tables and become indignant, she also had her own plans. Even if the illegitimate son stood out in front of Jean Qinhuang, it was still the same. But if their own child made friends with the children of the big families, then it was possible for them to soar to the sky. Thinking like this, their hearts were burning hot. Their indignation and unwillingness were thrown to one side as they thought about how to make their child stand out. And those young ladies, young women and little Bean who had not yet grown up, their thoughts were more simple. They were curious and wanted to go take a look. After all, last year when Jean Qinhuang built a horse farm, it could be said that it was on a grand scale. Even with the Jiangnan incident, the emperor's thunderous rage didn't stop work. Moreover, that belonged to the imperial manor, so there were few opportunities to go. With this opportunity, they naturally wanted to satisfy some curiosity and even a little vanity. Therefore, whether the advantages outweighed the disadvantages or the disadvantages outweighed the advantages, it really couldn't be generalized. These people were all invited, so Jean Qinhuang's brothers and sisters naturally couldn't be left out. Regardless of whether they had left the palace or not, in fact, those who were still in the palace were even more looking forward to it. After all, for them to go out of the palace, it was countless times more difficult than for a lady to go out of the boudoir. Therefore, the horse race that was prepared this time, compared to Jingwan's idea, was a bit bigger and more lively. It could be said that all those who could attend were all present. All the participating horses were first sent to the manor 2 days before the official race and agreed that one person would follow. Finally, when the horses were gathered together, Jingwan saw that spectacular scene and her heart was a bit hard to describe. The total number of invitations sent out, there are less than 100. These 200+ horses, where did they come from? Replying to Wang Fei, some young masters sent more horses. The steward of the Wangfu who was in charge of these horses tactfully replied, how many horses are they preparing for one person to ride? But it doesn't matter. Originally, they didn't intend to let those young masters personally participate. In any case, the ultimate goal is to bet on horses and not on people. They have that kind of confidence, so it doesn't matter if they send all the horses. Each famly can only send one horse. If the extra horses want to appear, let them pay the appearance fee. After all, this is the first time, so the appearance fee will be cheaper. 1,000 taels for one horse. In addition, the horses of the same family can't appear in the same race. This Wang Fei is also thinking of them. After all, some people may be willing to compete by themselves. At the same time, it will be convenient for them to bet on each of their horses. They were also convinced that the Wang Fei's idea was another way to make money. It must be said that some people were bursting with confidence in their horses. 2 days later, the young masters who were preparing for the race, after getting the explanation from the people of the stud farm, thought that it was good. Wasn't it just 1,000 taels of appearance fee? It was a piece of cake. After getting the approval, they waved their hands and asked their attendants to go home and bring the other treasures at home. Speaking of which, young people were definitely not the only ones who were fond of horses. Some people had been fond of horses for their entire lives. Even if they could no longer personally ride them, they were still willing to raise a few precious horses. Such people, if given the chance, were also quite willing to bring out their treasures to show them off. Therefore, this stud farm really didn't have to worry about its prosperity. Although the people who came were all young people and children, the number of people present was not less than that of a very important banquet. The essential purpose was to have fun. Therefore, Jingwan was also simple and convenient. She only needed to entertain a few sisters-in-law. She was really surprised to see Princess Lu. It was not easy for her to be pregnant. She was still in a special period and the pregnancy was not stable. She dared to come out and wander around. Was she really fearless or did she have other ideas? Jingwan's eyes flashed slightly, but she did not say anything. She only asked the servants to serve her well. The things that she asked them to prepare for her were all normal and would not go wrong. Moreover, they were all passed through the hands of the people around her. However, perhaps because she was really happy, Princess Lu became much gentler. Her smile was not perfect from the beginning to the end. At least, in Jingwan's eyes, it was much more real. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/117252998. HTML. Please click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 477. Sixth Sister-in-Law, Your manner is really beautifully managed. Seventh Wang Fei said sourly. The other sisters-in-law's hearts were not much different from hers. Obviously they had the same status, but many times they really felt that they were dwarfed by others. That kind of stifling feeling in their hearts really made people feel very uncomfortable. In fact, the surrounding area was basically the imperial manor. The other princes and Qin Wang all had their own manors nearby. However, in comparison, Qin Wang's two manors were the best. The location was good, and the products were abundant. Not only that, just one of them was at least twice the size of the other manors. The biggest difference was even more than 4 times. The two manors were more than 8 times the size. Those places were more remote, the roads were more winding, and there wasn't enough money to renovate and take care of them. But for those who could see Qin Wang's manor from their own manor, comparing the two, their own manor was simply like the wilderness. Although they had long accepted their fate and knew that no matter what, they couldn't compare, but every time they saw it, they couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. Jingwan had long been accustomed to this kind of thing and didn't care. It's a waste to leave this manor alone. Even if we stay in this manor, the one next to it is enough. Moreover, our Wangye feels that it's strange and boring on weekdays, so this manor will be open to the public in the future for people to play. If sister-in-law and younger brothers and sisters are free, you can also come and sit. Several people listened and looked at each other in dismay. She must be joking. In any case, this was the imperial manor under the prince's name. How could it be for people to enjoy and play? It was too degrading. Just this point alone, they would be impeached. However, unless it was a major crime like treason, no matter how they impeached, they probably wouldn't be able to touch Qin Wang. The corners of their mouths twitched, and they didn't say anything. The lesson of the past told them that their sisters-in-law was also not to be trifled with. If they provoked her, what would the consequences be? Wasn't the current Gong Qin Wang the best proof? She was estranged from her maternal family, her son was isolated, her husband abandoned her, and a younger cousin was sent to the Gong Qin Wang Fu. Although she was a concubine, but she was favored more than the two Gong Qin Wang Fu. Compared to the Gong Qin Wang Fu, she was only a little worse. It could be seen that the relationship between the Gong Qin Wang Fu and the champion Marquis Fu was still close, but the left governor, the Gong Qin Wang Fu, and the Gong Qin Wang Fu, seemed to be. The Gong Qin Wang Fu and the left governor, who held military power, had a grudge against each other. It was simply a matter that made people clap their hands in joy. At first, the Gong Qin Wang Fu was angry because the left governor Qin Tianming ignored him. How long had it been, he still refused to let go. He had always been humble, but it didn't change Qin Tianming's mind at all. He faintly felt that even if he continued like this, there wouldn't be a good result. Coming to this point, it could be said that he had staked everything on this one throw. He wanted to give Qin Tianming a taste of his power. However, Qin Tianming didn't react at all. He seemed to have completely abandoned his own daughter. The Gong Qin Wang Fu was so angry that he didn't know how many things he smashed, but he still couldn't do anything to Qin Tianming. The Gong Qin Wang Fu cursed Qin Tianming in all kinds of ways, his malice overflowing to the sky. He was always thinking about what he would do when he ascended the throne. However, he actually faintly understood that if he was abandoned by Qin Tianming, his chances of ascending the throne would be very slim. Unless the two people in front of him and Li Hongyuan all died, only then would it be his turn. Although he understood this in his heart, he still didn't want to admit it. However, some ideas were constantly breeding, and he didn't know when they would be put into action. Originally, it could be said that the tripartite situation had been broken. Prince Kong and Prince Rue basically didn't put this younger brother in their eyes. Of course, in Prince Kang's view, Qin Tianming was working for him in the dark. Now that he was openly falling out with that good younger brother, it didn't affect him much. On the contrary, without this connection, those who originally stood on the side of the good younger brother would probably have to reconsider. Therefore, when the other brothers tried to rope in Qin Tianming, Prince Kong sneered. Of course, he didn't forget to give Qin Tianming some benefits to strengthen the relationship between them. Facing these people, Qin Tianming's heart was tired, especially when he had to face that temperamental real master. Speaking of which, the Gong Qin princess consort was his own daughter. Even if she became unbearable, it was impossible for him to completely abandon her. In the end, giving up now, to some extent, was actually protecting her. His daughter now drew a clear line between herself and the Gong Qin Wang Fu. In the future, when Jin Qin Wang Fu came to settle accounts, his daughter would be implicated as much as possible. However, he couldn't say anything, and his wife couldn't do anything about it. The Gong Qin princess consort, who didn't know this, could be said to be in a state of despair. She said she was sick and didn't come out, so she really was sick. However, in the end, she was still the left governor's daughter. Even if the Gong Qin Wang disliked her, he would absolutely not torture her. These things, everyone knew in their hearts. Although it was very inconceivable that the left governor would go to this extent. However, the Gong Qin princess consort's initial decline was indeed related to Jin Qin Wang Fu. Then, every time she had an unpleasant encounter with Jin Qin Wang Fu, her decline would increase. It was like a curse. Therefore, when Jingwan didn't know, these sisters-in-law had already decided not to provoke her easily. Not to mention a friendly relationship, at least, they wouldn't deliberately find fault with her. Therefore, at this time, even if they were jealous, they were limited and didn't dare to go too far. Jingwan actually felt a little strange about their attitude, but she didn't like to argue with people. No one found fault with her, so naturally she was happy and relaxed. As for why there was such a change, who cares? Regardless of whether it was the race course or the leisure area, they had arranged for enough people. They were all trained, so Jingwan didn't need to worry about them at all. Although, she still had more ideas in her mind that she would slowly add to the leisure area. Of course, it was just entertainment and its influence was limited. The horse race was about to start. Jingwan took a few people to the horse track. The stands were naturally divided into levels and areas. They naturally occupied the luxurious room on the highest level. From this position, they could basically see the entire field. The 10 horses for the first round had been sent to the fence behind the starting line. A list of which horse belonged to which track had been distributed to everyone. There was still an hour before the start of the race, so everyone could place their bets on the horses they liked. Of course, in Jingwan's view, there was actually not a small drawback. The field was big, and the specific situation of the horses couldn't be seen. For those who could distinguish the horses, they lost a lot of opportunities. However, this kind of people were in the minority. The rest was still betting according to the owner of the horse. In the beginning, there were more people who just watched and didn't make a move. It was believed that after each competition, which horses could stand out, it would naturally gradually surface. But this kind of ever-victorious general, there was no need to worry that it would exist for a long time. If the result was the same every time, then what was the point? Not to mention those who lost, whether it was for money or face, they would all go and look for better horses. Jin Qinhuang's precious horses were especially good-looking ones. The horse farm was Li Hongyuan's. It was his wife's idea. Naturally, she would control everything in the palm of her hand. Even the people who would manage the horse farm in the future might be sent by Lu Qingdi. Horses were basically strategic goods. Although there were people who sold horses among the people, they were in the minority. Moreover, the truly good horses wouldn't appear in those places. Therefore, there was no need to worry about the popularity of horse racing disturbing the people and causing chaos. Li Hongyuan and his other brothers were in another private room. Speaking of which, everyone wasn't stupid. After knowing someone's rules, they could basically think of the huge profit margin. After a little calculation, their hearts jumped wildly. This wasn't a hen that laid golden eggs, it was simply a gold mine. Sixth brother has good thoughts, Even with Prince Rui's composure, at this moment, his emotions were brought out. Not to mention the others, their jealousy was about to erupt in an instant. Li Hongyuan didn't care and didn't even give them a glance. Wang Fei's idea is just to earn some money for rouge and face powder. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/11778266. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicon.com. Bicon. Com mobile version reading website. Bicon.com. Chapter 478. Li Hongyuan didn't care and didn't even give them a glance. Wang Fei's idea is just to earn some money for the rouge and face powder. He pointed at them and gave them a look of disdain, then threw out the words, making a fuss about nothing. A few small coins were worth mentioning. In any case, he was a Qin Wang, his eyelids were so shallow. These people cursed in their hearts. Who the hell would need so much money to buy rouge and face powder? All the noble ladies in the capital, including the many imperial concubines and princesses in the palace, wouldn't need so much. Besides, who didn't know that the best rouge and face powder in Rouge Pavilion was from Jin Qin Wang Fei's prescription? Not only was there a large amount of dividends, all the rouge and face powder didn't cost a single copper. Still want rouge and face powder money? Even if you're looking for an excuse, you should be more careful. Even if you don't say anything, it's still better than now. However, no matter how much they cursed in their hearts, they couldn't say it out loud. Or rather, they didn't dare. Somewhat stifled, they pulled at their necklines and adjusted their breathing. They warned themselves to be calm and not be impulsive. If you're interested, then bet a few rounds to play. Li Hongyuan propped one hand on the armrest of the chair, propping up his chin. His other hand tapped the other side from time to time, as leisurely as he could be. Because it was the first time, the betting rules were relatively simple and crude. Moreover, it was betting on the champion and not the ranking. In the first round, betting on one to win 10 horses in each round. So far, there were almost 16 rounds. The top 3 horses in the first round would participate in the second round, 8 horses in each round, betting on one to win 3. Similarly, the top 3 would participate in the third round, betting on 1 to win 5. Then the top 3 would participate in the final round, betting on 1 to win 10. As the owner of the horse, every time they won, there would be a corresponding monetary reward. If they could win from the beginning to the end, then based on this point, their pockets would rapidly expand. In the first round, the lowest bet was 10 taels, the second round was 100 taels, the third round was 1,000 taels, and the last round wasn't 10,000 taels. Instead, it was changed by Jing Yuan to unlimited. If it was small, it could be 1 copper coin. If it was large, it didn't matter if it was tens or hundreds of thousands. This time, even if they lost in the end, it didn't matter. Jin Qin Wang could completely afford it. However, this possibility was relatively small. Of course, it wouldn't be like this in the future. The odds would always be adjusted according to the number of bets and the amount bet. There probably wouldn't be a minimum limit either. In short, as the banker, he would definitely make a profit. As brothers, they had to give some face to each other. Moreover, they had their own horses to participate in the race. Not to mention others, they had to at least have some confidence in themselves. Perhaps only Li Hongyuan had this privilege of not playing at all. Speaking of which, no matter how poor he was still a prince. Thus, when he made a move, he naturally couldn't lower himself to the lowest value. As the elder brother, Prince Kong bet 500 taels for each round. If this continued, several thousand taels would be spent. Prince Rue slightly reduced his base bet. However, for some unknown reason, the Gong Qin Wang was completely equal to Prince Rue. Behind him, the fifth prince naturally reduced his bet a bit more. Behind him, except for Li Hongyuan, the other 3 were equal to the fifth prince. There was nothing wrong with the rest, but the Gong prince had a problem. Prince Kong was the eldest son of the first wife. Prince Rue's birth mother was an imperial concubine, while the Gong prince's birth mother was only an imperial concubine. According to reason, he should have slightly retreated from Prince Rue, and the rest should have been equal to him. However, he insisted that he was on the same level as Prince Rue, and according to his original intention, he should have even surpassed Prince Kong, but in the end he didn't lose his mind. Prince Rue tilted his head and glanced at him, smiling as if he didn't care at all. However, some people behind him couldn't help but tremble. Obviously, this third imperial brother's mood was very good recently. He was amiable to everyone. That smile made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. But now, why did it inexplicably feel a little scary? The Gong Qin Wang's expression also sank, but then, not to be outdone, he returned a smile to Prince Rue, a naked provocation. Now, even if he took advantage of the situation, so what? He was clearly in a weaker position. Now that he was happy, who knew what would happen in private? Moreover, although it was a small matter, it was enough for some officials to see the bigger picture and make a choice. So, the Gong Qin Wang obviously didn't have the life of a living king of hell, so why did he want to get the living king of hell's illness? Squandering without any scruples is the living king of hell's privilege. Him suppressing you 2 brothers is a matter of course. No one would think it was wrong. If he really followed the rules, other people would have to worry about whether he was holding back some evil tricks. It was said that Prince Kong was a rash and impulsive person with a violent temper. In fact, the Gong Qin Wang was not to be outdone. Especially now, after the Empress fell ill, Prince Kong restrained himself and appeared to be a lot calmer. Whether it was real calmness or fake calmness, in contrast, the Gong Qin Wang was more and more unbearable. Among Lu Chengdi's sons, in addition to the 2 who died young, there were 8 who had already reached adulthood and were titled princes. Counting them, the number was really not small. However, the ones who were really competitive for the throne were only the first few. The ones behind, to be honest, even if they really had ambition and wanted that position, it would be very difficult for them to realize it. Because their birth mother's status was not high, and they were not favored. They did not have a strong maternal family, and similarly, they did not have a strong wife's family. As for their own talent, well, without that support, being too talented, they might even lose their lives. Apart from the external conditions, in terms of himself, Prince Rue was actually the most suitable person to sit on the throne. Whether it was his temperament or the way he handled things, although he might have a dark heart, he was actually the most concerned about face, cherishing his feathers, and paying attention to his reputation. This kind of person, even if he waited until he ascended the throne, he would still carry the title of Eternal Emperor. Therefore, even if the people who were fighting for the throne now, unless they really hated him to the bone, they would not easily kill him. Killing people would not be done openly, and they would not do it in the open. He would not even be like his father, treating someone with flowers and brocade on the surface, but in reality, he was suffering. He could give them glory, splendor and wealth, but probably not power. In terms of ability, Prince Rue was actually very good. At one time, he was also the one who Lu Chengdi thought the most highly of, but later, Li Hongyuan secretly tampered with him, weakening Lu Chengdi's good impression of him. In fact, some people, including those who secretly supported the living king of hell, thought that Prince Rue was better as the emperor. However, after boarding the living king of hell's pirate ship, if one wanted to get off, it was not as simple as becoming a corpse and being thrown off. Of course, in terms of ability, Prince Rue naturally could not compare to Jin Qinhuang. However, if the former wanted to become the eternal emperor, he could probably only think about it. Being able to raise the current Qi Yuan by a little was already not bad. As for the latter, as long as he had a reason, he was completely capable of pushing the Qi Yuan into a flourishing age. However, Li Hongyuan's temperament was treacherous and hard to understand. He could become the monarch of a flourishing age, but he could also go to the other extreme. A lot of things were probably within his thoughts. If he were to bet on Prince Rue, he would be able to proceed smoothly without any worries. However, if he were to bet on Prince Rue, there would be a considerable risk. It could be a high return, or it could be a loss. In fact, regarding Jin Qinhuang's love for his Wang Fei and his willingness to restrain himself for his Wang Fei, people like the head of the cabinet Ruan Ruizhong and the left governor Qin Tianming were happy to see it. Because Jin Qinhuang was really too special. If there was someone who could slightly restrain him, and this person had a sense of righteousness and propriety, and guide Jin Qinhuang in a good direction, then they would have no objections even if Jin Qinhuang only favored him. For them, the country was actually the most important. And the Minister of Personnel, Luo Peishan, was even more selfish. He did not like Jin Qinhuang Fu's harem becoming chaotic even more. Therefore, when some people jumped out so fiercely some time ago, these people did not participate in the slightest. Even if they guessed that those women's mishap was not because they were restrained, but because they were tampered with, their hearts did not have the slightest fluctuation. They even hoped that this situation could continue to be maintained, not only for Jin Qinhuang to ascend the throne in the future, but also for the next emperor. For an emperor who grew up in a good environment, even if it was worse, there was at least a 30% chance that it would not be the case. Jingwan simply did not know these things. She did not know that in the future, even if she monopolized the harem, the court officials would not have too much objection to her. At this moment, the first horse race had already begun. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/118266656. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com Mobile Edition Reading Website. Bicken.com. Chapter 479. For a woman, she could still maintain her composure when she saw such a scene. However, she had never seen such a scene before, so she was also affected by the surrounding environment. Her face was slightly flushed, and her eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement. She even clenched her handkerchief tightly in her hand. In a relatively crowded place, she could restrain herself. But in a private room, she was surrounded by acquaintances, so she didn't have to do so. She could cheer without caring about her image, just like the typical Yuan Chow Chow. Of course, the children basically didn't have any concerns. At this time, The atmosphere was too lively. No matter whether it was the brothers or sisters or the nannies serving them, no one restrained them. After all, many people were like this now. If they forcibly restrained them, wouldn't they be hated? Not only their own family members, but also other people's children. Everyone was unruly and improper. If they taught their own children, others would be implicated. In Li Hongyuan's private room, at the beginning, everyone could still sit still. The first one who couldn't sit still was naturally Prince Kong, because this was the first game, and his horse was in it. Speaking of which, Jingwan was kind enough to separate all the princes and princes' horses. According to Li Hongyuan's character, he could put all of them in the same game. At the beginning, they would be at daggers drawn and bows bent. It was fine if they fought for power, but when it came to entertainment, they shouldn't make it like a battlefield. Since they were horses raised in the prince's mansion, they were certainly not bad. As time went by, the distance they covered was constantly increasing. The 10 horses were almost divided into 3 camps. Prince Rui's horse was in the first camp, and there was only 1 horse in the second camp. They were very close to each other, chasing each other. At most, they were only 1 horse's head away from each other. If it weren't for the rules of the competition, the people on the 2 horses might have already fought. Competitions, especially those that were very competitive, often had the charm to make people's blood boil. Of course, it was also possible to make enemies. After all, people cared about their reputation. There were often more people who couldn't afford to lose than those who had a good mentality and could afford to lose. Prince Kong had long ignored the others and rushed to the front of the private room. There were no windows, only a waist-high half of the wall. Prince Kong was abnormally agitated, either waving his hands in excitement or smashing his fists in anger. Words like "run quickly" and "trash" came out of his mouth. What was his image? What was his brotherhood? All of it was thrown beyond the highest heavens. In the end, Prince Kong lost, and it was only by a very small margin. Prince Kong turned around with a dark face. "Give me the name list. Ben Wong wants to see who can raise such a good horse." His words seemed to be filled with praise, but his expression and tone were as if he wanted to eat someone alive. What he wanted to express was that he wanted to see who had the guts to win despite knowing that it was his horse. Others might be disdainful, mocking, or gloating. Prince Kong grabs the list handed over by a close attendant. After looking at it, he sneers, "A mere 6th-rank official can also afford to raise such a good horse? This prince is very suspicious of the origin of this horse." It was clear that he wanted to use public office to avenge private wrongs, yet he still found such a high-sounding reason. According to common sense, a 6th-rank official's salary really couldn't afford to raise a precious horse, but he still couldn't allow people to have a bit of background? From beginning to end, the calmest one was probably Li Hongyuan, his posture still leisurely. "It's merely a few thousand taels, nothing more. If eldest imperial brother can't afford to lose, Ben Wong won't let people take your money. It's not a big deal. It's just that there's one thing that eldest imperial brother needs to know. Today, every horse's owner is a guest invited by Ben Wong. If eldest imperial brother wants to do something, you should consider it carefully." The furious Prince Kang's complexion congealed as he looked at Li Hongyuan. As a result, when Li Hongyuan spoke to him, he didn't even look at him. Prince Kong huffed and puffed. "What can I do? Lao Lu is thinking too much." That's right, those who participated in the horse race, no matter what their status was, were all holding on to Jin Qinhuang's invitation. If because of a competition, it ended up attracting a calamity, where would the living king of hell put his face? Moreover, it was bound to affect other people with relatively lower status. Then, wouldn't this competition go against some of Jingwan's ideals? Would the living king of hell allow it? As for not giving Prince Kong face? It's just that the horse is inferior to others, the skill is inferior to others, and you still want to complain that others didn't let you? If it was someone else, you could still use your power to suppress them, but you met someone that the living king of hell wanted to protect. Heh. Prince Kong sat down and couldn't act out, at least not now. As for whether he would act in private, it was hard to say. However, even if he acted in private, this face would still be lost, and this elegance would also be gone. The others secretly watched as a joke, but they were also a bit worried that they would encounter the same thing. However, it was useless to think about it now. If they really did encounter it, at least they couldn't show that they were narrow-minded. There were a lot of people who had the same worries as them. Because before, they bought horses based on the person. Prince, how could the horse raised be bad? Absolutely not. Therefore, many people actually bought Prince Kang's horse in the first round. As a result, they lost. Naturally, they wouldn't be so reassured about the later rounds. After all, they had already bought it, so it couldn't be changed. However, the people later on didn't have Prince Kang's bad luck. Even the sickly fifth Wangya's horse was first in that round. This was a bit unexpected. After all, because of fifth Wangya's health, he wasn't interested in horses and the like. His horse was actually used to make up the numbers, and it was only a horse that he had obtained by chance. Therefore, among all the Wangs, only Prince Kong lost. This time, he completely lost face. He once suspected that this was simply Li Hongyuan's deliberate arrangement in order to make him lose face. Obviously, Prince Kong thought too much. If the living King Yama really wanted to scheme against him, would it be over just to make him lose face? After that, with the participation of these masters, the situation of betting in the later rounds wasn't as concentrated as in the beginning. People wouldn't bet based on the title of each other's father. After all, some things were really hard to predict. And under such circumstances, the competition was more exciting. However, this was probably the only time such a situation would happen according to the owner's bet. When the first round was over, some people's necks were already hoarse. However, they felt more excited. Really, it was very exciting. After all, this was the first time they experienced it. Sometimes, they even wished they could be the ones who did it. However, it was already late. The second round would be in the afternoon. Originally, the blood was already boiling. They couldn't wait to know the final result immediately. In particular, those who won a lot of money in the first round probably had never experienced the experience of earning a lot of money in an instant. That kind of feeling was really quite fleeting. Then, greed quietly grew in the bottom of their hearts, and they wanted more. However, the arrangement of the competition was not up to them. Moreover, after a fast run, the horse always needed time to recover its strength. The closer the horse was to the back, the more so it was. Although the whole course of the competition didn't consume much of the horse's energy. During lunch, many people still didn't stop talking and kept discussing. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/11974957. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicon.com. Bicon.com mobile version reading website Bicon.com. Chapter 480. However, halfway through the meal, everyone heard a tiger's roar. Because it came too suddenly, everyone was startled at first. Then, someone shouted, "Tiger," and the scene immediately became restless. Tigers were no joke. Even if they hadn't seen one before, they definitely knew how ferocious tigers were. As the saying goes, one's face would turn pale at the mention of a tiger. Fear was unforgettable. Moreover, listening to the roar, it seemed to be very close. Who wouldn't panic? Moreover, it was said that there was a rare beast garden in this manor. There were countless rare and exotic beasts in it. Perhaps this tiger was one of them. The more they thought about it, the more panicked they became. They also felt that the tiger's roar was getting closer and closer. Li Hongyuan put down his chopsticks. Eunuch Mu immediately handed him a wet towel. He took it and then slowly wiped his mouth. Then, he changed to another towel to wipe his hands. He looked unmoved, as if he didn't hear anything. After wiping his hands, he threw the towel back. Seeing him like this, the other masters at the same table also restrained themselves and didn't move. It was too embarrassing to show fear. Imperial bodyguard Chen rushed over. Obviously, he came because of the tiger. "What's the matter?" Li Hongyuan asked faintly. "Master, 2 tigers in the rare beast garden ran out. The guards there couldn't stop them and ran to the horse farm. The tigers hurt a few people. Now, they are trying to drive the tigers back. If they don't listen, just kill them. Why waste so much effort?" It was obviously a very ferocious thing, but in his mouth, it was so understated. It was like pinching an ant to death. "Yes." After Imperial bodyguard Chen left, Li Hongyuan poured another cup of wine. "It's just a small matter. I just don't know who did it. It's so clumsy. Could it be that someone thinks that killing a few people can affect this prince?" Huh. When the few people present heard this, they did not respond. However, they all had different thoughts. How should they put it? They were not only worried that if they responded, the fire would burn them. When facing Li Hongyuan, apart from the 5th prince, there was probably no one who did not think of the problem of killing him. Especially in the current situation, it could be said that he was blocking the path of too many people. Now that such a thing had happened, they were all suspicious of each other. Who was the culprit? Although Li Hongyuan would not be able to completely suppress the death of a few people, if the people who died were more important, then even His Majesty would have to deal with it. After all, there was no difference between nobility and lowliness. How could the final result be the same when a few commoners died and a few high-ranking officials and nobles died? For the former, it was not impossible for Lu Chengdi to suppress it. However, for the latter, the difficulty was too great. Therefore, if the appearance of the tiger at the horse farm was not an accident but man-made, then it was obvious that they did not feel that this plan was clumsy. Or, even if it did not succeed, as long as the tail was cleaned up, it did not matter. If the first time did not succeed, then the second time. If the second time did not succeed, then the third time. If the precious beast's garden did not succeed, then the horse farm did. If the horse farm did not succeed, then the manor did. There was a saying that went, "There are thieves for 1,000 days, there are no thieves for 1,000 days." Jin Qin Wang only had that little amount of manpower. If he could really make it watertight, then there would be a problem. As long as it was not like an iron bucket, then there would be a flaw. In the beginning, there was no need to think about his name. It could be done in a roundabout way. As long as His Majesty's favor towards him was weakened, it would be even better if His Majesty disliked him. After that, it would be much easier. Therefore, they did not think that under this kind of condition, some people had strangely reached an agreement in their hearts. With regards to their thoughts, Li Hongyuan did not know. However, even if he knew, he would not care. His current attitude was that he would not take the initiative to expose anything. However, if some people were to sense it, then he would not care at all. Moreover, this time's horse race was such a big spectacle. It was to give some people a chance. If nothing really happened, then it would be disappointing. It was just that his own wife was kind-hearted and would not involve innocent people. After all, the open and covert struggles between these people could easily take someone's life. Therefore, the horse farm and the people who came and went were strictly guarded. There must not be any slip-ups. If there was a problem with a horse and it went crazy in the competition, the probability of someone losing their life was too high. Li Hongyuan felt that it was a pity that he was not able to make use of this point. It was just that this idea of using the precious beast's garden. Li Hongyuan's eyes darkened and he finished the wine in his hand in one gulp. Compared to Li Hongyuan's calmness, Jing Wan was not so calm. It was not because she was afraid, but because the tiger had hurt someone. One must know that the animals in the precious beast's garden were all wild. Their bestial nature and wildness, their lethality was absolutely terrifying. In the absence of anesthetics, the tiger had hurt someone and could not be brought back. Li Hongyuan gave the order to kill, and Jing Wan could only remain silent. However, the matter did not end there. Just as Jing Wan was quietly waiting for the result, a servant hurried over. Even if the order to kill was given, someone still died. Moreover, this person was not a servant, but a son of an aristocratic family. Jingwan almost cursed. If this matter was not caused by someone, she would write the name backwards. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11974959. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com Mobile Edition Reading Website. Bicken.com. Chapter 481. Jingwan almost swore. If this matter wasn't man-made, she would write her name backwards. She didn't mind if someone tampered with it, but she wasn't prepared for someone to die. Jingwan stood up. I have something to do, excuse me for a moment. Her expression was particularly cold, even a bit sharp, as she walked away. Outsiders had never seen Jingwan like this before. No matter what the rumors about Jin Qin Wang Fei were, most of the people that outsiders came into contact with were absolutely gentle and good-tempered. Some people even felt that she didn't seem like someone from the imperial family and damaged the dignity of the imperial family. Looking at her now, they were completely wrong. Thinking about it, no matter how she used to be, after marrying into the imperial family, she was at least 30% worse. Compared to Jingwan, even if he knew that someone had died, Li Hongyuan didn't have the intention to get up and deal with it. He only said to hand it over to Wang Fei. Moreover, on their side, it wasn't the people below who whispered to Li Hongyuan, but directly said it out loud. Once Li Hongyuan's words came out, the people around them started to speculate, thinking that Li Hongyuan wanted to use his Wang Fei as a scapegoat. Obviously, this matter would be brought to Lu Chengdi, and according to Lu Chengdi's preference for Jin Qin Wang, it was believed that he would be very happy to have someone take the blame for his son, even if that person was his daughter-in-law. The people who were secretly delighted just a moment ago couldn't help but secretly scold Li Hongyuan for being shameless. But they never thought that if they encountered a similar matter, they would definitely push their own daughter-in-law out. The main culprit and the accomplice were two different things. Moreover, the matter of not teaching strictly couldn't even be counted as an accomplice. After all, that was a daughter-in-law, not a child. Her moral upbringing was more on the head of the in-law's family than the husband's family. However, Li Hongyuan's gaze swept over the body of the guard who reported to him. Someone died in the master's territory and he directly shouted it out. Should he say that this kind of person was honest and straightforward? Or was it something else? One must know that even if the master didn't care, the final decision should be made by the master. Even if he wasn't a demon, such a person should be properly trained. If he was, then all the more he should be trained to the point of death. Training to the point of death would count. When Jingwan arrived at the scene, the tiger had already become a corpse. The ground was dripping with blood, and the smell of blood was very strong. In addition, there was a mat under which, most likely, the aristocratic family's son. The smell of blood made Jingwan feel a little nauseous. She covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief. Tell me the details. Your Highness, the situation is like this. The situation was originally under control, and the irrelevant people were stopped outside. We were working together to kill the tiger. Unexpectedly, someone suddenly rushed in. The tiger was already furious, and when this person rushed in, the tiger directly opened its mouth. We didn't even have time to react before we were buried in the tiger's mouth. Now he understood that he was just throwing his life away. Jingwan curled her lips coldly. She didn't hesitate to use her own life to plot against her husband. Of course, she wouldn't have the slightest bit of mercy. Which family is he from? Your Highness, he is the only son of Secretary Bai. Jingwan was slightly startled and frowned. things were really a little troublesome. Although the Bai family was not a top noble family, the most promising branch of it was Lu Chengdi's family. The former Empress Dowager Bai was a smart person. At the very beginning, she didn't let her niece be her son's princess. Later, after Lu Chengdi ascended the throne, she didn't let any white girl enter the palace. She even suppressed her family. She didn't let her family stand out, and she never interfered in the political affairs. When Lu Chengdi ascended the throne, he couldn't do without the Empress Dowager and Lady Bai. Empress Dowager Bai's behavior naturally won the favor of Lu Chengdi. Before Empress Dowager Bai died, the relationship between mother and son had been very good. When Empress Dowager Bai died, Lu Chengdi was so sad that he didn't go to court for a month. When Empress Dowager Bai died, she didn't have any other request. She just hoped that Lu Chengdi could take care of her family. She didn't want them to be rich or noble. As long as they didn't violate the law, he would protect them from being bullied. How could Lu Chengdi not agree to such a low request? Therefore, although the Bai family was not prominent and was very low-key, many people didn't even know about it. In the entire capital, the Bai family was definitely in the top 3 families that couldn't be provoked. If the one who died was an ordinary member of the Bai family, it would be fine. The problem was that the Bai family didn't have many children. Empress Dowager Bai only had one brother and one younger brother, no sisters. The younger brother was only a few years older than Lu Chengdi. He didn't have much ability but basically didn't cause any trouble. Now, he was still alive, and his children and grandchildren were not bad. The problem was that Lu Chengdi's first uncle only had one son, the current secretary Bai. Lu Chengdi's first uncle was also a cabinet minister. After Empress Dowager Bai's death, he resolutely resigned on the grounds that he was not feeling well. However, bravely retreating was one thing. Another thing was to make way for his son. The current secretary Bai also had some difficulties in having children. In fact, in order to continue the bloodline, he had many wives and concubines. However, he had more than a dozen daughters. It wasn't easy for him to have a son. It was conceivable that such a single son was valued. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/119756662. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website Bicken.com. Chapter 482. Now, this soul seedling was gone. Bai Shi's status was special, and similarly, she did not participate in the struggle for the throne. Bai Shu was a wily old fox. As long as he made his presence known at the right time, the position of one of the 4 elders would inevitably have a seat for him. He could be considered as having a son at an old age. Although he still had a few years old daughter at home, he was still busy making babies, hoping to give birth to a son. His son was not yet 20 years old, so he did not need to be like his father, retiring early. He only needed to steadily and surely pave his son's path. When the day came when he could no longer move, it would be almost there. As a result, Bai Shu's married daughters were more than 10, but not a single one was directly related to the princes. However, if one were to carefully line them up and calculate, they would find that except for Jin Qinhuang, they were basically related to everyone. Under such circumstances, if this precious piece of meat died, it was equivalent to all their efforts being in vain, all their plans coming to naught. Even the best person would go crazy. Therefore, the Bai family did not care how the person died. They only knew that after the person died, they would do everything to get justice. Not counting Bai Shu, Lu Chengdi's cousin, Lu Chengdi's eldest uncle was still alive. Although he was old, he basically did not move at home. His only grandson was gone. It was estimated that even if he had to crawl, he would crawl into the palace to cry to Lu Chengdi. What would Lu Chengdi do? Take it lightly? It would only be a thunderous rage. Jingwan also thought that the person who schemed against them was really clumsy. Looking at it now, it was clearly very brilliant. No matter what the method was, as long as the person was killed and died in Jin Qinhuang's manner, that was a good method. Not to mention that so many people saw Bai Gongzi pounce to court death. As long as there was no solid evidence to prove that someone was secretly plotting behind, the Bai family would bite Jin Qinhuang to death. For example, if there was no horse racing, his grandson, Sun, would not go to the manor. If Jin Qinhuang's people did not guard well, his grandson, Sun, would not have died. If Jin Qinhuang did not raise a tiger, his grandson, Sun, would not have died. In short, there were many reasons. Although Lu Chengdi would not go so far as to take his son's life, and Jin Qinhuang appeared to be very idle on the surface, even if he was fined his salary and grounded, it would not be a big deal. It would certainly not satisfy the Bai family. What was most likely was that they would use all of their friendship with Lu Chengdi to strip Jin Qinhuang of his title and demote him to a common person. For a commoner to become the emperor, unless Lu Cheng Emperor's other sons were all dead, otherwise, it would be more legitimate than a baby prince. Although Jin Qinhuang couldn't ascend the throne normally, but he couldn't kill all his brothers after usurping the throne, right? From Emperor Lu Chengdi's point of view, the sixth son could not inherit the throne anyway. Therefore, it did not matter whether the sixth son's status was higher or lower. With his protection, even if the sixth son was a commoner, he could continue to do whatever he wanted. As for what would happen after 100 years, he would leave an imperial edict early to restore the title of nobility to the son who inherited the throne. In this way, the other sons would not have to worry about passing the throne to the sixth son. This was simply killing two birds with one stone. And in Emperor Lu Chengdi's heart, it could be said that he would be complacent to solve the problem and protect his son well. Therefore, if there was no strong evidence to catch the real culprit, things would probably develop as planned. However, thinking about it, since they had laid out such a trap, naturally it would not be easy to get hold of the evidence. Jingwan rubbed her eyebrows. How should she break this trap? Have all the people at the scene been detained for interrogation? Wang Fei, rest assured. They have been guarded and carefully questioned. They will not let go of any clues. Imperial bodyguard Qian said. Speaking of which, they were also angry. Things were under control, but in the end, such a problem occurred. It was simply a disgrace to them. After all, the other party was just a pampered young master who did not have much strength. They were well trained. And the guards guarding the periphery were also rice buckets. They were concentrating on dealing with the tiger and did not notice. Could it be that the people outside also could not watch one person? So easily let people run in, or did they deliberately let them in? You've been working for His Highness for a long time. I believe in your ability to do things. Jingwan paused. If there is something suspicious and the other party is not willing to let go, directly ask Gong Jiu to do it. Just don't kill anyone. Imperial bodyguard Qian looked at Jingwan with some surprise and quickly lowered his head. Looking at some dark things, the Wang Fei also knew. And according to her temperament, she was ruthless. It seemed that she was really angry. In addition, temporarily seal the manor. Without permission, no one is allowed to go out. Also, inform the Bai family. Yes. Go and ask the prince to come. If it did not involve the Bai family, naturally it would be done. It was fine even without someone. Yes. Jingwan's eyes fell on the mat. Wait, has Gong Jiu seen the body? Replying to Wang Fei, he has not. There are too many people. Even if Master Bai's servants were interrogated, they were not willing to go too far away. They insisted that Master Bai's body was under their eyes. They were very emotional and made a lot of noise. If they touch Master Bai's body, I am afraid that the Bai family will not let it go. Jingwan's eyes swept the periphery and quickly found the target. Although she did not know what they were talking about, she could faintly hear crying. Because the tiger had hurt people before, Jingwan thought that the crying was related to those people. But thinking about it, it was impossible for the injured body to stay here. It must be sent to another place to heal. Thinking about it carefully, these servants of the Bai family were also very strange. They should know their master's position in the Bai family. If their master died, they would definitely not have a good ending. If they had better endurance, they would be trembling in fear and almost fainting. But now, they still had the mind to think about other things. They were crying and wailing to guard their master's body to prevent others from touching it. This was not normal. Let Gong Jiu do it. Interrogate these people first. Since they've already been frightened, it's reasonable for them to be a little more miserable. Then, send someone trustworthy to watch over young Master Bai's body. Don't let anyone get close. Evacuate all unrelated people. Let Gong Jiu take a look at the body as soon as possible. Before the Bai family arrives, we have to finish everything. Also, find 2 experienced coroners to do the autopsy in front of the Bai family. No one would rush into the mouth of a tiger for no reason. If he was not drugged, he must have been caught with something that could affect his mind. This Master Bai was the only son of the Bai family. He was the kind that was endlessly spoiled. However, among the rich playboys in the capital, he was the kind that kept a low profile and did not cause any trouble. Master Bai and his father were very smart. Although they spoiled him, they knew how to control it well. Therefore, Master Bai's reputation was really not well known. So, it was almost impossible for him to be caught with something that could be used against him. Even if there was, he would definitely tell his family. In order to protect this only son of the Bai family, the 2 elders of the Bai family would definitely try to cover up the matter. Therefore, the possibility of him being drugged was more than 90%. Yes. Jing Wan glanced at him. You should have thought about it. I am overthinking. If I say so much, it will delay the time. Do it as soon as possible. Princess, you are very thoughtful. We are not as good as you. That's enough. Don't flatter me. I know how much weight I'm worth. Do it as soon as possible. Yes. It seemed that the flattery failed. Well, when it came to pleasing the princess, he was not as good as Mu En, the henchman who was used to flattering. Jing Wan found a place to sit down. She did not want to disturb them. The maid served Jing Wan a cup of tea. Jing Wan occasionally took a sip. Most of the time, she held the teacup and pondered. It was not good to be too idle. This matter either did not come or was extremely tricky. When Li Hongyuan came over, he saw Jing Wan quietly pondering. He waved to the maid who greeted him. When Jing Wan looked up, his fingertips fell on her face. They looked at each other for a moment. Li Hongyuan said, "Don't worry. It's okay. I think you already know who died. I am worried that in the future." Li Hongyuan pressed his fingertips on Jing Wan's lips. Wan, why do you think that this matter will go according to someone's plan? Do you think you can find the real murderer? The corners of Li Hongyuan's mouth curled up. What's the point of investigating the real culprit? There's no need to investigate. Just put on a show. If we investigate too thoroughly, wouldn't we be exposing our strength to outsiders? Even if it's just a drop in the ocean, wouldn't it make people more afraid? Although a fly is nothing to be afraid of, it will be very annoying if there are too many of them. Instead of spending time dealing with those trivial matters, I'm naturally more willing to spend time with Wan. Jing Wan slapped his hand away. I'm serious. I'm not joking with Wan. When I first came here, I have already ordered that there is no need to use special means to interrogate. Just ask the normal questions. Gong Jiu doesn't need to look at the body. When the coroner and the Bai family arrive, they can directly conduct an autopsy. The coroner will say whatever the result is. Anyway, according to what you said, it is very difficult to find the real murderer. Some people can't be touched without evidence. It's just a suspicion. So, there is no need to waste time. Jing Wan looked at him. Was he not joking? Are you going to take a step back in order to advance? Are you really going to be a commoner? A commoner? Wan is really thinking too much. If I become a commoner, won't Wan be wronged? My position will only be high, not low. I will not be low. Retreating in order to advance was something that could be done, but it was impossible to make him retreat so much. In this matter, there was no need for him to do so. So, Ah Yuan already has a countermeasure. Can you tell me what you are going to do? Wouldn't it be more interesting to have a reversal at the end of the matter? The problem is, according to what you said, I already know the final outcome. So, I am not interested in the reversal process. If you put it that way, well, it's probably taking drastic measures. What about the specifics? These words were equivalent to not saying anything. Li Hongyuan laughed again. Wan is so smart. You can make a guess yourself. Jingwan's face was a little dark. Why was he still joking with her at this time? However, the so-called taking drastic measures probably meant that he had something on the Bai family. It was a very fatal kind. If he revealed it to Lu Qingdi, even if Empress Dowager Bai was his friend, Lu Qingdi would never help the Bai family. He would even kill the Bai family. Seeing Jingwan's anger, Li Hongyuan finally stopped teasing her. He sat next to her and whispered in her ear. Jingwan opened her eyes wide in surprise. The so-called taking drastic measures was completely different from what she thought. Are you sure this is true? You are not going to do this? Of course it's true. If it's false, maybe I will do the same. Jingwan looked at him with a strange expression. Prince knows a lot about the things in the capital. It was time to publish gossip magazines. There must be some special news. What can this prove? Li Hongyuan did not take it seriously. As a person of two lives, it was normal to know more than others. It shows that a Yuan has trained well and his subordinates are all capable people. Otherwise, how can you be omniscient? Li Hongyuan cast a sidelong glance at her. Wan, are you trying to plead for them in a roundabout way? With this, Jingwan reacted. No matter what, today's matter, whether it was the guards of Jin Wangfu or the people who looked after the tigers in the precious beasts garden, other than participating, the rest could be regarded as dereliction of duty. They must be punished. It was just a matter of light or heavy. I only hope that after the matter is clear, Prince can be lenient with the irrelevant people. Didn't I let someone pass on a message to you before? This matter will be handed over to you. How to deal with it, you have the final say. If it involved the Bai family, how could she deal with it? Alright, she could deal with the people in the Wangfu. The real culprit could be casually investigated. But the people inside, who was the traitor, it must be clear. No matter what the reason was, they must be severely punished. Jingwan firmly believed that they would be able to find out the truth. What's next? What should we do? I have already let people temporarily seal the farmstead. Today, we invited people to race horses. What else can we do? Li Hongyuan said unconcernedly. Jingwan was helpless. The person who died is your cousin. Continuing the horse race, wasn't that poking at someone's lung? So what? Don't talk about the cousin who is 2 or 3 levels apart. Even if it's a blood brother, Ben Wang will still do the same. It can't be helped if he is not pleasing to the eye. In any case, not many people find Ben Wang pleasing to the eye. Alright, as long as you are happy. Horse race, continue the horse race. In any case, there was already a plan to deal with this matter. In the end, a certain person would not have anything to do, so there was no need to worry. As for Bai Gongzi, who was most likely to die in vain, because he became the only son of Scholar Bai, his value was quite big and he became an unlucky person. Jingwan laughed at herself in her heart. At the foot of the Son of Heaven, there were open struggles and covert struggles for the throne. There were also the ups and downs in each of the noble families and courtyards. Who knew how many people died in vain? Jingwan sorted out her emotions, stood up, and gave 2 orders to the people around her. Soon, everyone in the farmstead got the news that the tiger came out and a life was lost. This matter was basically known to everyone. Originally, everyone was in a state of panic. They thought that Jin Qinhuang and Jin Qinhuang Fei would send the guests off. They didn't think that they would be so careless and actually want to continue the horse race. Perhaps, it was not careless, but cold-blooded and did not take human life seriously. However, there were also some people who felt that Jin Qin Wang was secretly detaining them in the farmstead. It was just that he was really afraid, or it was for some purpose. Some people made a ruckus and wanted to leave the farmstead and return to the capital. However, the person they wanted to arm wrestle with was the living king of hell. If it was another person, perhaps they could still win. But it was the living king of hell. If they didn't officially arm wrestle, they would have to admit defeat. Therefore, they made a ruckus and in the end, they would still be obedient. Li Hongming and the others had another thought. The current scholar Bai was not only Fu Huang's cousin, but also had been Fu Huang's study companion. They had a close relationship and deep feelings. Above him, there was also a tactful uncle who helped him ascend the throne. There was also that biological mother who had already passed away. 3 layers of friendship superimposed on top of each other. How many people could compare? They believed that even Li Hongyuan would certainly understand the power of this. Thus, how could Li Hongyuan not be arrogant and impatient? Was he certain that Fu Huang would not do anything to him? Or was there something that they didn't know? Jin Qin Wang wanted to continue the horse race, so everyone could only go to the arena. It was clearly the same, but the base price of the bet was even higher, so it should be more exciting. However, most people couldn't raise their spirits. Perhaps it was because of the fear of the beast. This tiger was dead, but who knew if other beasts would appear? Or perhaps it was because they were thinking about the matter itself and didn't have the heart to think about anything else. It was just that these things had a smaller impact on the children, and their attention was also easier to divert. Therefore, it was only the second round, but they were already dancing and cheering. Perhaps because of their influence, the atmosphere gradually became more enthusiastic. When the Bai family received the news, Bai Gongzi's biological mother directly fainted. When she finally woke up, she hurriedly informed Scholar Bai, and then rushed to Li Hongyuan's manor. Scholar Bai also arrived at about the same time, wearing his official robe. Hearing the deafening cheers and extremely enthusiastic cheers, Scholar Bai and his wife's eyes instantly turned red. Their hearts were filled with hatred, and their eyes were about to split open. Their only son was gone, but these people still acted as if nothing had happened, and played so happily. Master, master. Bai Gongzi's biological mother cried until her liver and intestines were cut to pieces, and she almost didn't want to live. Madam, rest assured. No matter who it is, I will definitely seek justice for my son. Scholar Bai gnashed his teeth, and it seemed that he would absolutely not let this matter go. When Li Hongyuan got the news, he still gave face and personally went to see him. Bai Xian was usually very tactful. He was very respectful to these princes. He did not treat them differently. However, when he saw Li Hongyuan, he did not have the slightest trace of his usual tactfulness. Li Hongyuan was a true life and death enemy. What kind of person was Li Hongyuan? Basically, he was not the kind of person to greet people with a smiling face. Naturally, he would not speak nicely to people who were angry at him. If it were not for the fact that his uncle's only son died in his manor, and he was more or less responsible for it, it would be strange that he would talk to him. If it were someone else, even if it was his responsibility, he would not expect him to do anything. When Scholar Bai saw Li Hongyuan's indifferent face, his anger and hatred in his heart jumped up, and he no longer concealed his feelings in his heart. Your Highness, aren't you afraid of retribution for acting like this? Li Hongyuan looked at Scholar Bai, and his posture was casual and calm. Your son was not killed by me. Why should I be afraid of retribution? You and your father are not responsible for today's ending, right? Not only do you want benefits, but you also want fame. Because you're too good at everything, you've won Imperial Father's favor. If you want to deal with this prince, you won't be able to do it under normal circumstances. Who better than using your Bai family as a raft? As long as something happens to your Bai family, it will erode Imperial Father's good impression of you. Even if you use the Bai family to frame this prince, it will not shake this prince's foundation. Who would touch your Bai family for no reason? Don't you people pay attention to the middle ground? Since you have done things to the extreme, you should have some awareness. Scholar Bai's teeth chattered. He really wanted to eat Li Hongyuan alive. Li Hongyuan sneered, "Come, take Scholar Bai to see his son." "Scholar Bai, please do as you please. This prince will not accompany you." After saying that, he directly flicked his sleeves and left. Scholar Bai had lost half of his mind because of the pain of losing his son. Now he was stimulated by Li Hongyuan, and he was going crazy. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he was a malicious spirit that had sworn to take revenge. Li Hongyuan, Li Hongyuan. He would not let the real culprit go, and Li Hongyuan would definitely not let him go either. To trample and abuse others so casually, what right did he have? What right did he have? Seeing her son's bloody body, Scholar Bai's wife directly fainted. Scholar Bai also felt dizzy. He fiercely bit his tongue and forced it to bleed. Only then did he manage to stay awake. The coroner did not find the result of the autopsy. Master Bai's body was directly taken away, which was expected. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/12081707. HTML. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 483. When Li Hongyuan returned, the other brothers saw that his complexion didn't seem to have changed. They didn't know what was going on, but their hearts and lungs were scratching uncomfortably. Each and every one of them couldn't sit still and wanted to return to the capital to see if things would develop as they expected. However, if the living king of hell didn't say to disperse, who could so easily pat their buttocks and leave? Even if Jin Qinhuang was currently in trouble, who could guarantee that he wouldn't be able to escape again? If by any chance he was still as lucky as before, at this time, throwing stones at someone who's down the well, wouldn't that be waiting for him to settle the accounts after autumn? As for whether it would offend Scholar Bai or not, the Bai family was reasonable and scrupulously abided by the rules. If they were offended, then they would be offended. Besides, there were so many people, what could the Bai family do? Could they just find trouble with some people? Right now, the hatred was all on Jin Qinhuang, so they didn't have the leisure to care about them. Therefore, they only needed to restrain their thoughts and quietly watch the show. Was this the so-called people who are kind will be bullied? At the beginning, that former cabinet elder of the Bai family didn't know that something had happened to his only grandson. After the corpses were carried back, the entire residence was in turmoil and chaos. Dark clouds hung overhead, the masters were mourning, the servants were grieving, as if that Bai Gongzi alone had brought death to the entire family. Don't talk about laughter, they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Cabinet Elder Bai also finally knew about this matter. He didn't manage to catch his breath and almost lost his life. Again, he called for the imperial physician, filled the prescription and so on. And this matter, as if it had grown wings, spread through the streets and alleys of the capital at the fastest speed. When Lu Chengdi found out about this matter, he was in the middle of reviewing memorials. On the spot, he threw his red brush and smashed the memorials. His temples were throbbing with pain. Where is that evil creature? Tell him to get his ass into the palace immediately. He couldn't stop roaring. The people inside the palace practically rolled and crawled out of the palace. Then, when they learned that Jin Qinhuang was still at the manor, how could they dare to be negligent? They quickly rode out of the palace on horseback, entered the manor, and entered the range of the horse farm. At that moment, they experienced the grief and indignation of the Bai Shi couple. However, this imperial eunuch did not dare to say a single word. Those thoughts were quickly thrown out of his mind. He did not dare to let the living king of hell come to see him and could only find him himself. In the luxurious private room, he saw the leisurely Jin Qinhuang. That was even more leisurely than the other Wang Ye. His heart inexplicably shuddered. This servant greets the Wang Ye. Li Hongyuan didn't respond at all. The situation was a bit awkward. The others looked at each other, but they didn't say anything. Instead, they looked at Prince Kong. Their meaning couldn't be more obvious. He was the boss, so it was natural for him to speak up at this time. Prince Kong secretly cursed in his heart. A group of disgraceful things. How come he didn't see them being this modest? Who would have thought that he was the boss? Although he wasn't very smart, but at this moment, he also knew that whoever opened their mouth right now would likely be remembered by this bastard Li Hongyuan. However, he couldn't ignore it. They didn't have the same willful right as Li Hongyuan. Prince Kong suppressed his anger as much as possible and didn't vent his emotions. Dai Gonggong has come, I wonder what is the matter? This Dai Gonggong also wanted to scold people. Asking when he already knew the answer, there really wasn't a good thing among the Emperor's sons, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. Replying to Wang Ye, the Emperor summons Jin Qin Wang Yi. Okay, the name was called, so the others also didn't mix in. However, the person who should cooperate still didn't cooperate and looked at the field seriously. Interrupting and building bridges, Prince Kong also watched from the sidelines. Fu Huang's inner chamberlain wanted to report to Fu Huang, so he did what he needed to do. Naturally, the rest had nothing to do with him. The current day was a pleasant time, but that inner chamberlain Dai's forehead was faintly sweaty. If it was anyone else, these inner chamberlains would be very willing to run errands. Basically, they would be able to get a lot of rewards, except for Jin Qin Wang. Although sometimes Jin Qin Wang's rewards could be more than 10 or 100 other people's rewards added together, Jin Qin Wang's temperament was treacherous and unpredictable. No one dared to gamble on his good mood for the sake of those rewards. Therefore, this task was to be avoided if possible, and if they couldn't avoid it, they could only pray for their own good fortune. Dai Gonggong braced himself. Jin Qin Wang Yi, the Emperor wants you to return to the capital as soon as possible and enter the palace. The living king of hell was completely entranced and didn't know anything else. Wang Ye, Jin Qin Wang Yi. What are you screaming for? Do you think Ben Wang is deaf? Li Hongyuan finally opened his mouth and it sounded a little chilly. Dai Gonggong fell to his knees with a plop. Wang Ye, please forgive me, this servant. Okay, when the competition is over, Ben Wang will go see Fu Huang. You either shut up for Ben Wang or immediately scram for Ben Wang. If he went back to report now, without Jin Qin Wang, there was an 80 to 90% chance that he would be attacked by the Emperor. Because of his incompetence, he would be suppressed by the other colleagues, and stay behind to wait for Jin Qin Wang to return together. The Emperor had gone to take care of Jin Qin Wang and probably didn't have the leisure to come and ask him. But if he stayed behind, there was no small risk. After weighing the pros and cons, he still decided to stay and obediently shrink to the side to be the background, striving to not be noticed by Jin Qin Wang. And Dai Gonggong's words and deeds once again stimulated the other Qin Wang's hearts. Because the people close to Lu Chengdi were obviously the lowest existence, but the other people basically had to be courteous to some extent, including them, these powerful Qin Wang princes. They were respectful, but other than that, there was nothing else. On the contrary, if you offended them, perhaps they would put medicine in their eyes in front of Fu Huang. However, Li Hongyuan once again became an exception. They feared him. In front of him, they were like his grandchildren, lowering themselves into the mud. Perhaps they themselves didn't know, but to some extent, their fear of Li Hongyuan had already surpassed that of Fu Huang. It was as if Li Hongyuan was superior to them at all times and in all aspects. They were both the Emperor's sons, but with such a huge difference in treatment, no matter how hard they tried to persuade themselves, they still wouldn't be able to calm down. Because they were powerless to change anything now, they could only think about the future. However, some of them also understood that their fantasies about the future were just fantasies. In reality, they couldn't do anything and were nothing. After the second round, everyone originally thought that it would end, but unexpectedly, Li Hongyuan let them rest for half a sick hen before starting the third round. After that, they would rest again before starting the final round. For those who did not know, the impact was not big. In their view, Jin Qinhuang was not anxious, so why should they be anxious? Whatever happened, it would not fall on their heads. Thus, what should be done was done. Knowing that Lu Chengdi's men had come in batches, they hoped that Li Hongyuan would go even further and infuriate the emperor. On the other hand, they felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. When it was finally over, Li Hongyuan was willing to let them go. Everyone hurriedly rushed back to the capital, and it was almost time to close the city gates. Li Hongyuan was still leisurely. Beside him, Lu Chengdi had already sent a third wave of people. Yu Zhongqing personally came with an imperial edict. Lu Chengdi repeatedly asked Li Hongyuan to enter the palace, and even issued an imperial edict. This was an unprecedented matter. It was enough to see that the situation had already reached an extraordinary point. At this time, Jing Wan had already sat beside Li Hongyuan. Why don't Wang Ye go back first? This concubine will tidy up and wait until the city gates open in the morning before going back? What's the hurry? When you're done tidying up, that's when we leave. The city gates will be closed and opened. It's not a big deal. Otherwise, we can wait together and go back tomorrow. Li Hongyuan said rather lazily. Jing Wan pinched Li Hongyuan without a trace. Everything should stop before going too far. After all, that person was in power now. If he was completely angered, it would not be good for anyone. Wang Ye, don't talk nonsense. Let's go now. There's nothing to tidy up. This concubine will leave 2 people behind. Li Hongyuan did not say anything. So be it. Compared with the previous people who were in a hurry, Li Hongyuan's group still moved at a normal speed. No matter how anxious the people from the palace were, they did not dare to urge them. Of course, Yu Zhongqing, who had submitted to Li Hongyuan, was calm. He believed that Li Hongyuan could still get away this time. On the contrary, the Bai family, who was ready to fight against him to the end, would not have a good ending. Li Hongyuan wanted to go back to his mansion first to rest and drink tea. However, under the threat of Jing Wan, he went to the palace first with Yu Zhongqing and the others. Li Hongyuan entered Emperor Lu Chengdi's imperial study. There were 2 people kneeling inside. There was no doubt that they were the former cabinet elder of the Bai family and his son, Secretary Bai. Speaking of which, according to the predetermined future, Secretary Bai would also be one of the cabinet elders in the future. Not to mention other things, the father and son were quite impressive. As far as Li Hongyuan knew, the former cabinet elder had just woken up and was trembling to enter the palace. His only son, Secretary Bai, accompanied him. The father and son had been kneeling in front of the emperor for more than 4 hours. Li Hongyuan wanted to admire the old man, but in fact, the former cabinet elder could not bear it. At this moment, he seemed to be dying. Obviously, such a state was extremely lethal to Emperor Lu Chengdi. This was his uncle, so naturally, he was extremely distressed. He had been kneeling until now. No matter what he said before, Emperor Lu Chengdi did not agree. At this moment, he even agreed to what the father and son of the Bai family did not say. At least when Li Hongyuan came in, Emperor Lu Chengdi stood in front of his uncle and tried to help him up. Your Majesty, my poor grandson. He was not even 20 years old. He died so miserably. Tears streamed down his face. His voice was hoarse and he was on the verge of collapse. He was so pitiful. Uncle, please get up first. I will give you justice. Your Majesty. Li Hongyuan looked at him, unmoved, as if he was watching a farce. When Emperor Lu Chengdi finally saw Li Hongyuan had been standing for a long time. Your son pays his respects to Imperial Father. Li Hongyuan bowed lightly. You vile spawn. Do you even put me in your eyes? Why aren't you kneeling down? Li Hongyuan lifted his eyelids. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well. He lifted his robe and knelt down. Seeing him like this, Emperor Lu Chengdi was so angry that he wanted to slap him to death. However, looking at his face, he could not bear to do it. He suppressed his anger and said, What do you want to say about today's matter? Li Hongyuan sneered. What do I want to say? The height of the precious beast garden's wall is high enough and very sturdy. Not to mention 1 or 2 tigers, even if there were 100 of them, those beasts would not be able to escape unless someone deliberately let them out. Your son has no enmity with Madame Bai, and we rarely come into contact. It is clear that your son has been in the limelight recently. Someone wants to deal with your son. Madame Bai is just a pawn chosen by the other party. They chose him and not others. It's fine that Scholar Bai did not want to find out the truth when he arrived at the manor. Instead, he first showed his attitude to your son. Elder Bai is also ridiculous. He did not care about anything and first came to you to complain tearfully. Then, he directly held on to your son and refused to let go. You want an explanation? Some things are already clear. You are delaying the investigation. So, this prince wants to ask what Madame Bai means. What enmity does this prince have with them? Being attacked by Li Hongyuan like this, the 2 people from the Bai family were so angry that they trembled. They pointed at Li Hongyuan. You. Li Hongyuan directly stood up and flicked his sleeves. If you want to put a label on this prince, it's troublesome. Take out the evidence. Even if you want to fabricate evidence, it's troublesome to put on an act and investigate the matter. Without a reason, this prince will not admit it. Bastard! Lu Qingdi shouted angrily. Li Hongyuan looked straight at Lu Qingdi. Compared with his previous expressionless face, he was now cold. What I said just now was also for father. If father also thinks that it's all my fault, take out the evidence. Or, father, for the sake of your relationship, you will listen to whatever they say and give them whatever they want. I, your son, can also be sacrificed without hesitation. Then, father, you can just issue an edict to punish me. After all, you are the emperor and I am not even a subject. Wealth and life are just a few words from you. Anyway, some things have already happened for more than 20 years and I don't care about it. After saying this, he directly flicked his sleeves and left. Lu Qingdi was stunned. He did not understand what his son meant. Thinking of a certain possibility, he could not help but take 2 steps back. He knew. Did he really know? But, how could it be? How could it be? Li Hongyuan walked to the door and stopped. He turned back and looked at the 2 people of the Bai family. The whole capital city knows that if people respect me, I will return the favor. If you insist on not letting me go and don't want to find out the real culprit, I will definitely make your Bai family restless before I am stepped on. After that, he left quite decisively. The father and son of the Bai family were shocked. Lu Qingdi frowned. In fact, Lu Qingdi was very clear that no matter how much he gave his son, he still owed him. He owed him the right of succession from the beginning. And it was he who caused all this. His son had never wanted to fight for the throne. He was a little confused before. But if he knew about his special birth, wouldn't everything make sense? The more Lu Qingdi thought about it, the more he felt that it was so. However, except for himself, only Consort Su knew about it. The others were all dead. If Yuan knew, there was no doubt that it was Consort Su who told him. Lu Qingdi was burning with anger. That woman really had a lot of guts. The father and son of the Bai family saw that Lu Qingdi's expression was not right. They panicked. Your Majesty. Lu Qingdi looked at them. There was no more grief in his eyes, nor was there an attitude of absolute support for them. Uncle, go back and recuperate. I will work with the governor's office, the Ministry of Justice, and the Supreme Court to investigate and find out the real murderer. As the saying goes, the dead can't be brought back to life. Uncle, please restrain your grief. If you don't take care of your body like today, I will be heartbroken. These words seemed to be concerned, but the father and son of the Bai family understood that this clearly carried the meaning of warning. They used their affection to cry in front of him. It was also a kind of threat. Yes, in Lu Qingdi's eyes, it was a threat. Because he was the emperor, if he gave, you can take it. If he didn't give, you can't take the initiative to ask. The hearts of the father and son of the Bai family turned cold. Originally, the situation was good and was advantageous to their Bai family. But when Jin Qinhuang came, he only said a few words and completely overturned the situation. They were shocked by Jin Qinhuang's power and also shocked by Jin Qinhuang's position in Luqingdi's heart. Your Majesty is like this, but this subject doesn't deserve it. This subject only wants justice. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/122076674. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, no registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Com mobile version reading website bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.